Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Wednesday night for us, that is Supercoach edition. It is our final Supercoach teams preview as well. So tonight we'll be talking about the Canberra Raiders, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and finally the New Zealand Warriors. Very keen to rip into this one. I think there's surprisingly a few more talking points than some might anticipate for these. We haven't left these three for last for any particular, just how it ends up happening. And conveniently enough, obviously a lot of things happened, the Tohu retirement, things like that. So it's actually helped create a few more talking points as well. So luckily we did wait and do these sorts of teams a bit later on. And really keen to get into it. Again, the final one. So I know everyone out there has loved all these. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't had time, it's always been broken up as well into individual clubs, which is currently happening. So I hope you've been enjoying that as well. All our head-to-head normally go through the comps, but all our Supercoach head-to-head comps are full and not doing any more, unfortunately, guys. So we're running two head-to-head. One of them is a cashy, two free ones, two cashies, and the overall comp, which is still that's the only one that is available at the moment. So I'll probably put a post up next day or two just to refresh and give you guys the code once again. And then things like our tipping comp is available still. So if you are keen on joining a tipping comp, value yourself. There is the Supercoach rings this year once again coming on board. So shout out to SC Rings. Overall winner will get a ring, as well as a tipping winner will get a tipping ring for the first time this year. Really appreciate them coming on board for that. Legends, quick shout out to the Legends once again. The chat is going off. I wasn't able to catch too much today, but seriously, I felt like today was very heavy in there. It went off. There was a lot going on. I think Trav actually got in there this morning and put a bit of a chat up, which is awesome. And then a lot of teams are starting to come out again. It's like goes in a way. So it sort of got quiet towards the back end of last week. And again, that King sets come through, rolled through for us, and we're catching a couple of big ones. So I'm really keen, and it's the best time to get in, guys. It's just before trials. We'll have all this trial exclusive stuff on there, how we see players lining up. Jesse will probably have a ramble about Isaiah Papali'i this weekend, so make sure you're in there to watch that or read that, I should say, and we'll go from there. Talking about the boys, let's get them in before we rip and tear. Jesse, how's things, brother?
Yeah, not bad, man. Pretty good. It is the last preview, obviously. I love these things. I love them. They're so fun. We've got to wait a whole year to do them again, which is a bit of a shame. But no, I was actually thinking it's pretty good that we've kind of left these last three teams to where we have, because we've got team lists for two of them, and so many things have changed at the Rabbits in the last, I wouldn't even say 2 weeks. I'd say probably 1 week, really, with all the news and everything. So yeah, no, it's timed out quite well. I think as accurate as we could probably get a pod with these three teams anyway. So. But no, outside of that, man, just chipping away at the app. I've slowed down changing my team so many times. I feel like I have an idea about who I kind of want to stick with, and it's just more filling in the blanks. But I'll just wait for the team list to come through before I dedicate too much more time into it. But yeah, no, man, outside of that, yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Always look forward to Wednesdays.
There is a couple of little stalemates, I guess, in a way. I'm the same as you. I'm trying just to not go too much on the app at the moment. I'm actually more so trying to mentally prepare for this draft we've got coming up for us. So that'll be really exciting. I haven't yet done any practice drafts, but I'll try and get into one at some point, probably on the weekend, but very keen. Our first draft as well, guys, is actually this Friday, and we'll have a lot of content out for our drafts this year. You'll get probably on Saturday morning a list of probably the first round drafts, and then just a couple of draft picks that we pick out ourselves and just think, that was a interesting pick at this number, whether it's for a good or a surprising or a questionable reason. So I'm really keen to get into that one. Trav, how's things, mate? It's been a big 24 hours since our last one. And if you haven't already, make sure you do. That's our NRL season preview part 1 came out this morning. So make sure it's obviously not a Supercoach one, but we've gone in depth with all teams. Part 1 was teams that finished last year 17th all the way through to 9th. Me, Trav, and it was Jake along for that one. Great episode. Really had a lot of fun with it. A longer one, so about 2.5 hours. So you'll get quality out of it. And I thought it was right up there for us. But Trav, how'd you recover?
Yeah, I sat in my classroom today. And as we know, teachers don't really do much.
Listen to us.
We just turn up, 9 till 3, get out of there, and off we go. So, I'm tired, but it is what it is. That's what we do. We love doing it. So that's how we go. And we're back here to back it up for the crew, for the Supercoach, as we have an addiction. So
True.
But I will admit, I'm glad I've got an addiction of this sort.
Yes. Just a quick, can we sort of, I'm not going to say too much because you know what, people more and more are listening these days. And I want people to start stealing our ideas because there's a little bit out there. We've been talking behind the scenes. We feel like there's a mole in amongst the ranks, and people are getting our ideas at the moment. It's not sitting well with us. But let me just say right now, we've got a couple of cracking podcasts coming up for you guys. I know we're in the middle of the trials. We'll talk about that as well. But we've got some big ones that there's a lot of really well-rated ones that we did last year. Around a few certain subjects. So if you've been a listener for a while now, you'll probably start to catch on what we're talking about. But very keen to rip into that one. I think that is next week, but I'll double check those numbers and see the dates. It's too much, but let's get into this one. I feel like, yep, big weeks at the moment. Content starting to ramp up. Very busy, but that fact that Jesse mentioned a bit before, team lists have dropped. Only 4. But hey, that's enough. That's got me enough to go, all right, let's go footy, baby. We can sit down on the weekend and we can watch a little bit of footy. And there's a few cracking sort of lineups out there for a first trial in the first week of Feb. Who would have thought? So first up, let me get this sexy slideshow up, guys. You all know it by now. The YouTube watchers will be seeing it. The fog on your screen. We will talk about the fog. Don't worry about that. And then basically, if you were listening, again, you won't miss out on too much. We'll explain everything as we go. More so to help us more than anything, make sure we get some of these big talking points that we want to talk about. So the Canberra Raiders, their first 5 rounds. Round 1, the Warriors in Vegas. Round 2, the Broncos at home. Round 3, Manly away. Round 4, Cowboys away. And round 5, the Sharkies at home. Just a quick little point on that before we actually get into the Supercoach stuff. I thought round 2 had to be a switchover and you versed the other team that was in Vegas this year. That's surprising. That's what they did last year, and I thought that was the rule about it moving forward, that to make it a bit fairer because they're obviously coming back, traveling, a bit more time to get back into things. I thought they just had to verse one of the other teams that they didn't verse at Vegas.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Either way.
I just remember they did that last year, so I just thought,
At least they get a home game. I suppose it sort of makes it a little bit easier, but they do get a week off between the two. So
true.
Either way,
all right.
That'll be fun.
The Canberra Raiders. So hooker, Owen Paddy, 198K, won't get a look in. Sean Packer, 198K, won't get a look in. The two that we might discuss, if we do, Danny Levi, 322K, and Tom Starling, 342K. Guess the first question is who gets what? We don't know. We've generally speaking said whenever there's this sort of situation where it looks like there's going to split the minutes, it's just a no-go zone. But experts, boys, what are your thoughts around this one? Jesse, I'll throw to you first.
I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss Owen Paddy, to be fair. I don't think the hooker role is really nailed on anyone for these boys at the moment. So we can kind of go into it thinking, look, it's Vegas. They're going to stick with what they know, a bit of tried and tested kind of thing. So, half expecting, Starling or Levi, but there's a lot of talk around Paddy. A few of the other big pod boys have been, raving about him, actually. And apparently he's a bit of a gun. So, I'd say in a team with this much, chopping and changing, it's been like revolving doors for feels like years now in this position, and they don't really have anything locked in proper since like Hodgson. So, look, I'm not going to touch any of them. I had Levi last year to start. He got very lucky with the amount of tries that he scored for 5 weeks running, I'm pretty sure, in a row. And either way, he kind of lucked out with that and jumped off as soon as possible. But yeah, it's not enough. I'd be pretty keen on Starling had he, sort of worked himself into a good, steady minute role, maybe 60 plus. I feel like he's got a fair bit of upside at his price, but again, it's so much uncertainty with him. I'd rather just avoid the headache in general. There's too many other 300K hookers at the moment to look at.
Yeah. Trav?
Jesse summed it up really well. I know that, we spoke pretty highly of Starling towards the end of the year, and when we did predicted sort of 2025 teams with a few weeks to go, I know Jesse was very high on Starling, and this is who I'm going to start with. So it's really interesting to hear him say, I'm not interested until team lists come out and they've played a few games and, we can consistently see the minutes, which to me is just a straight up too many question marks. I'm going to take what Jesse said because I watched him, how high he was last year, and I'm not going to go anywhere near it. So, I think you're right. It's just at this point in time, they're both good players. Like they are. They're both. Starling is good. Danny Levi is okay. He's another year older. He's another year better. I did also hear the same thing about Paddy and that, they rate him pretty highly as well. So there's another one. So it just at this point in time, there's just too much unknown on what to do. So it's a pretty easy avoid.
It'd be good to see Paddy get a run too, because I think he is named in the trials as well. So get to see some of it firsthand. But yeah, on like with Starling's numbers, the reason why I was so keen on him last year was because he does have a lot of potential if he does get good minutes. He scored 52 in 68 minutes against Melbourne, 80 in 76 minutes against the Knights, 62 in 80 minutes with the Warriors, 68 in 70 minutes against the Rabbits, 81 against the Dogs. These are all consecutive games too. They're not patchy throughout the season. When he got that run towards, I think it was about 2/3 of the way of the season, he did get a good stretch of games with like 60 plus minutes. And it was like 62, 80, 56. Yeah, and then minutes drop off again straight away back down to 40, and then everything gets cut in half. So if he does get the run, like, man, there's a lot there, but it's a big if. There's been a lot of ifs.
Yeah, we don't like to operate on ifs at the start of the year. It's not a nice word we'd like to talk about. Just on that Raiders team, I know Owen Paddy is named in there, but my concern with it is it doesn't look like too many of the big guns, if any, are actually in this one. So it's not like I don't think the Raiders are going hard for this one, unlike a couple of the other teams that have named stronger lineups. So it kind of makes me feel like he might not be quite there yet, but he's definitely looking like he's on the radar. And all it takes is one injury, and it feels like he might be able to become someone we actually look at quite seriously and go, oh, okay, we might be able to make a little bit of cash here. So one definitely to watch. Front row forwards. So there's a number on this. There's 10 all up. So Peter Tatio, 198K. Vina Patuki Case, 198K. Miles Martin, 2RF Dual, 198K. 15% ownership. So there's some stuff going on about Miles Martin. Jake Clydesdale, 198K. Pasami Sulo, 2RF Dual, 316K. Emra Goulet's actually gone to the Dragons now, so we don't need to talk about him. Corey Horsburgh, the big red machine, 355K with a dual of 2RF. Adam Mariota, 2RF dual as well. What's all the Raiders 2RF duals? Goodness me, 374K. Josh Papali'i, 440K. And Joseph Tarpanay, 655K. And we don't have to go too far to ask someone who's very keen on Mr. Tarpanay, and that's Trav himself, who has had a bit of a love affair with this man for a while, and so has Jesse. they both have. So, boys, take it away.
Trav,
I'll go Tarpany, and then hopefully you touch on Horsburgh, because B Red is definitely someone that people should be looking at 42% ownership. It just dumbfounds me how good this guy is going to be, Tarpany. He's already a gun. He's only going to get better. He's still young. He's still got potential. He's only going to get better. He put up 66.9 last year on for his game average on good minutes, leading the team as a front row forward. I think he just got named captain for this year. So I'm just really, really high on Tarpany. My issue is that he's $655,000. And unfortunately, I'm just not quite ready to pay that in my front row forward just yet. I need to. Tarpany is one of him and I really want to, depending on how May goes, depending on how Tino goes. At this point in time, I'm thinking Tarpany and AFB just might be at least two of my targets for the front row forward that I think I'll be looking at around halfway through the year or somewhere to finish. I can't speak more highly of him. Like last year, he pulled out 100. He's pulled out like 390s. He had a 97 against Penrith. He pulled a 98 against Bulldogs. Is that not incredible? that's two of the best defenses in the competition. He pulls out 98 and a 97 in 55 and 57 minutes. He did 110 against the Dolphins. So there's big upside for him, and it's only going to get better. So I am very high on him. He's certainly on I've got a star next to him. He's on my watch list. I just, at this point in time, as I said before, I just don't want to spend $655 in my front row just yet. And I'm hoping that at some point he will drop. Last year, just so everyone knows, he started at $693, so he was $40K more. Obviously, there's been a change to the way everyone's priced with the flex option coming in, but he was $693. And his lowest price he dropped to was $567, and he got to there in round 12. So there is a chance for him to drop that price. He will get down there at some point. And when he does, I'm going to jump all over that.
Go on, Jesse. Yeah. Start us on the Big Red. I know you love Tarpany, but I'm just going to push you. Go Big Red.
Done. All right. Yeah. Tarpany's great. I'm just going to quickly drop that in. I will have him definitely at some point this year. I have to. I always do. He's a gun. Yeah, man, Big Red. Holy moly. We've got something here that could be potentially massive. Like this could be what we need. Hey, like there's the duel. Obviously last year was a bit of a weird one for him. He had that falling out with Ricky, but now everything seems to be good. Everything's back. You know, the sun's shining, the rainbows are out, and everything looks good in the world for Mr. Big Red himself. And he's slimmed down. He's looking fit. God, man, look, I'm just looking at his 2023 stats. Man, he averaged like 66. We've got him priced at a 35. And either way, like he's actually priced lower than what he actually averaged last year. So regardless of the fact, even if he comes off the bench, plays very limited minutes, there's nothing to lose. And he's a jewel. I just don't see why his ownership's not higher than, 42%?
Yep.
I don't see why not. Like it's a no-brainer to me. I think he should just be locked in everyone's side. The potential is through the roof. Providing like it, there's a lot of talk about where does he play? Does he start? He should be probably the lock. Smithy should probably go into the props. Papali'i to the bench. Like there's all this stuff that they can do, and who really knows yet? But I think the minutes won't really be a problem. He can play 40, 50 minutes off the bench comfortably and still well outscore what he's priced at, and just be a really solid, reliable player. Because the points per minute are great. Offloads, tackle bust. Like he's a solid player, man. So. A guaranteed starter in my side, probably for round one, I would say, because I've got Tino on my bench chipping away just for the round one buy. But yeah, man, I'm very consistently probably going to run him for the long term, I would imagine. We'll just have to see how it all plays out, but everything's looking good for me. I can't knock it at all.
I've actually got him in my second spot in my front row forward at the moment because it allows me to make another decent move, and I'm actually quite content with that at the moment. I feel like, especially early on, I think he'll do enough and get me enough points where I'm actually happy with him being there, and just to watch and see what's happening with Tino. I know Tino's a couple 100,000 up, but I'm not going to make that direct change. But that duel allows me to make something else happen over the early couple of weeks once I see Tino and see how that happens and that unfolds. But yeah, I'm massive on him as well. I can't rate him enough. And the more I look into it, the more I think how things are. And like you said, even if he comes off the bench, I can still see him playing a quality like 55, maybe even 60 a week. And that's more than enough for him to get some really good scores.
More than enough, yeah. I think he does come off the bench. I reckon he will. I've started him in my second spot in my front row forward as well. I actually don't have a problem where you start him in with this guy, front row or 2RF. You know, normally we sort of go, I think he's better off like Sandon Smith. I think at this point in time, he's better off at hooker. But I don't think there's a position that's really going to work because we've got a few duels, so you should be able to muck around with it. But I'm actually starting him on my team. I think he comes in at the 15 jersey. I think he'll come off the bench. He'll be the first guy off the bench. I think they'll start Papali'i. And I think Papali'i will, try and run a bit of havoc in the first 20 minutes. And then the rest of the game is basically Horsburghs. That's my prediction of what's happened. That's kind of what I've read too. I think a lot happens there. Papali'i will come back, but he'll go into a bit of a different spot. So that's sort of what I've read. I kind of believe and agree with that too. So I think the bread's been broken with him and Stewart. As I said to you last night in our team review for the NRL podcast, that they've had dinner, they've fixed it, they've had a red wine, sorted out their shit, and off they go. Because so there's some big talk about it, and there bloody well should be, because he can play. So they should get excited about it.
Yep, you want to see some 2023 numbers for him, just real quick? Played, mate, so good. Played 22 games, averaged 62 for the season. 13 games at lock, averaged 66 in pretty much 66 minutes overall. Played 5 games off the bench, averaged 48 in 37 minutes. And then played 2 games in the back row, averaged 73.5 80-minute games. So there's nowhere really that he's not going to do well, especially for what he's priced at. I just think,
so take that lowest score of 48 average. He's making 150K for us.
Yeah, exactly right. 37 minutes as well. So you got to think that's going to increase regardless. That was a 1.3 ppm off the bench. Everything else is thereabouts 1. So, yeah.
So if he literally comes on and gets 40 minutes and gets us a 48,
you're laughing.
He's making 150K and you get rid of him. And you're sitting there going, "Yep, thank you very much. You did your job."
Yeah, well, for that and the duel, why get rid of him?
Like
really,
he pushes, he pushes down. So what is his price? He's 355. He makes 150. He's at 500K. Yeah, by that point in time, like kind of what happened and what I was saying with Tarpany, and his price gets down to around. He loses that sort of 100, 130K. You're only going to need 30 to 50K to upgrade Horsebread at Tarpany. Let's go. I think it's just a no-brainer. Pick him. He's got to be picked.
Well, he averaged 45 last year in 45 minutes. Average, anyway. And 2 of the last games that he played were his biggest ones. So, yeah, it's easy. Very, very easy, that.
Yep. Can we quickly touch on Miles Martin? 15%. Is that more to do with the price, 198K dual? It allows people to maybe nuff if they're looking towards that way early on, or do we think there's a chance he might get some minutes? I'm looking at this week's trial team. He's obviously named at lock, so I feel like he might be down the pecking order a touch, because I think Smithies is there as well as Big Red, who we've just spoken about. I think they'll both battle out for that 13 jersey, and then whoever doesn't get it will probably get a bench spot and play some minutes in that front row rotation. So I don't think Miles Martin will get much time, if any, early. But again, he might be one of those watchers, and maybe they're just picking someone who they can move in and around. But I'll tell you what, there's a few tasty jewels this year that I don't think you need one of these sorts of players.
Yeah, I think it's just enough numbers, eh?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's a very popular enough target. I think when you see the percentage, people just jump on that at the same time as well. Not a lot of thought in it.
Yeah. Okay. 2RF, get ready for this, guys. There is 14. The Raiders are very, very hip this year with their forward pack. So Joe Roddy, 198. Noah Martin, 198. Just spoke about Miles Martin. Then Jordan Martin. There's the Martin clan here. There's 3 Martins, 232. We need to get to this. Can someone let us know? Are they all related? Are they brothers? Because that is insane. 3 brothers ready to rip and tear. They must all be pretty young as well. So that's cool. Corey. Yeah, and they're all 2RFs as well. Imagine the food bill on that family every week.
I feel sorry for that mother.
God.
Goodness me. Corey Harawira Naira, 232K. Hope he's doing much better than obviously the last time we've seen him around the footy field. Pasami Sulo with the FRF duel. Trey Mooney, 317K. Matty Nicholson, the signing from England, 336K. Already just spoke about Big Red. Adam Mariota, we've already spoken about. Simi Sasagi, 2RF. Morgan Smithies, 467K. Zach Hosking, I was quite high on him earlier. I think I was softened on that, 513K. And Hudson Young, we have a question on him, 685K. Jesse, are we sleeping on Hudson Young? It's currently at 2% ownership.
Yeah, I think we are. He's been doing it for a long time, and his ownership never really creeps up. I had him in draft last year, the League of Interest draft, and he was a gun. I'd always seen him score well, and it was nothing I ever really humoured, and I don't think people really do. I think it's very much the same kind of thing at the moment, like we are now. You look at his ownership, it's 2%. He averaged 70. Like, that's huge, man. 70 is not anything to just look at and just think, oh, anyone can average 70. There's only a handful of guys above him. Like, you got to put respect on a 70. Last year, 56. The year before, 66. The year before, 61. Like, he's always been up and around it, but last year was massive. So, yeah, he scored 10 tries last year too, but 9 the year before, 13 the year before. So he's always got the try line thing about him. Super underrated, super underutilized as well by super coaches too, because he's just a hell of a pod. Right in the midst of all those other, pretty top tier priced second rowers, your Olakauatus, Nakoras, that kind of thing. Never gets a look in, man. And I think it's just the team he plays for, I would say, because he's got everything else going. But yeah, he's definitely slept on. Again, in saying all that, am I going to start with him? No. Will I own him at some stage this year? Probably not. But he'd be a hell of a good draft target for me again. And that's where, I don't know. It's definitely worth looking into, though, for sure.
I have picked up on him over the last week around definitely how much we are sleeping on Hudson Young. He was the 5th highest 2RF scorer last year.
Yeah.
Averaged 70 on a 79.9 minutes. So obviously he's a 80-minute player. He played 22 matches. So he basically plays every game. But by average, he then becomes still the 5th highest scorer. So he's the 5th highest average player plus the 5th highest points. So that's incredible. We're sleeping on him. 100% we are sleeping on Hudson Young. And to be only 2% at 685, there are lots of people trying to pick at this year where we're picking Barnett. I'm seeing people wanting to get Olakauatu. Like I'm starting to see teams starting to pick up on like Papali'i and things who are, he's $100,000 cheaper. But I'm just starting to think more and more that he's one of the guys. We've got to get him. Like somehow we've got to do it because he just puts up numbers. Like we talk how highly and how much we loved Isaiah Yeo because of his consistency on what he does. Isaiah Yeo averaged 4.3 points more than he did. And he only got 90 more points, or basically less. Not he got 86 more points than Hudson Young did. It's incredible, man. Like it's incredible.
5 scores over 100 last year, and what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4 scores in the 80s. Like it's solid, man. 45% try scoring conversion rate as well. Like yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know why either. We just sort of just don't really humor these sort of dudes. But yeah, look, man. Ultimate pod. His ownership won't get higher than 5%, I reckon, this season at its peak.
And he's going to score.
And he's going to score. He does it all the time,
each and every week.
Yeah,
I think he's well priced at 685 for the 2RF role. I'm lost for words. Like I really am to see him at this price with what he can do, what his stats have shown. We are certainly sleeping on this guy, but have I got him in my team? No, but I think I'm going to find a way. 59
in base and power last season too. So yeah, if he doesn't do anything, he's losing 50k off that base just by base points. Yeah, very good player, man.
Any other 2RFs to talk about here, boys? We've got Matty Nicholson come over from England. We obviously had Morgan Smithies last year, the Englishman that came over that a few of us got sucked into. Made us a little bit of cash, I guess, but it was a bit of a slower burn than I think we first anticipated. But hey, we got there in the end, I feel like. I'm not as keen on Matty Nicholson though this year. Like I just haven't entertained it. There's 5% currently that are entertaining it and are getting him for 336k.
I love the 336k, Super League guys that come through. I'm always keen to give him a run. I'm keen on Kai O'Donnell as well. He's the other bloke that I've the same price, obviously come over as well. Exactly the same. But yeah, look, I just want to see how it goes. I sort of want to see where he lines up too, because Hosking's in a bit of an injury cloud. He always seems to be. It's a shame too, because when Hosking gets going, man, he's one of the best there is, I reckon. The Supercoach scoring anyway is ultimate relevancy. So yeah, look, if he doesn't play, we're expecting to see Nicholson. I don't know what to expect from him. I haven't looked into him at all, but I'm definitely going to be watching. I think if he does start, he gets a couple of weeks to have a look in, because I started with Smithies last year, and started off pretty exciting in a way because we were thinking, geez, really good base, could be another Hopgood-esque kind of player, and then it kind of just went stale. It went a bit flat. It was a bit of a. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a headache in such that he doesn't score poorly, but there was no upside. And that was half the problem. No, it was just, you just knew exactly what you're going to get. Probably 45-ish, maybe a 50-pointer here and there, but nothing but a tackle. He had nothing else about his game. So that's what I'll be looking at. If Nicholson looks busy, wants to be out there, he's, getting amongst it all. For sure, man. 336K, like, it's very easy to get to. Very, very easy to trade someone out if a cheapie doesn't work out quickly. So that's where I'll be looking at it, definitely. Outside of that, man, there's not a lot going.
Trav, anything more to add with the 2RS for Canberra?
No, I'm certainly off Hosking. I was never really that keen on him, even when you spoke about him and how high you were. Now with the injury cloud and what's going on, I'm definitely off him. I'm certainly not looking at Smithies at all. He did his job last year, did what he had to do, and I traded him out just before Origin. I reckon I was pretty happy with that. I am pretty keen on Nicholson at 336. And the more and more I look at it, the more and more I do, because I'm just starting to worry, which is what we were saying at the start of the pod around we're stopped looking at our teams, because we kind of got an idea of our teams and what we want, but that's dictated by how many cheapies we can actually find and what we can get. And at this point in time, there's not too many cheapies screaming out to us. So dudes like Nicholson at 336, who is going to play, like he will be in that 17, I think, from all reports. I think he's got sort of that, that 40, 50 minutes in him. And Stewart has shown that he plays these types of guys, those types of minutes. So I think there's at least 100, 150K rise in him at some point. It's just a matter of how long you can keep him there. It's going to be a bit of a slow burn. Yet I don't think he's going to come out and push out a couple of 70s and 80s and he's going to come and get his 100K pretty quickly. I think it'll be a slow burn. I think you'll be looking at having him sitting on your bench until around Origin, and then that's where you push him out. So I am pretty keen on that. I've actually just really randomly, I've put a star or a watch list on Trey Mooney. So many people rate this guy. So many people rate him. They rate his talent, his work ethic. Clearly, Ricky Stewart loves him. His name keeps popping up, but he doesn't get picked. And he's signed he's got a pretty decent deal. So he's going to be there for a while. So it's got to be time. So he's on my watch list as to so that the numbers pop up when he does. And I'll certainly be watching him eagerly. You don't start with him, but certainly keep him on your radar. And there was one more as I'm scrolling through. No, that's it. Sorry, that's it for the 2RS for what I've got there.
I think finally for the 2RS, well, I will say now, I'll echo a little bit of what we said last night, Trevor. I feel like their first choice forward pack is actually almost up there with one of the best in the competition. Overall, that props, the locks, the back rowers, very well-rounded forward pack. Mm-hmm. It's also from a Supercoach point of view, there is some options below that. As we've said, there's a lot. There's 14 2RFs. There's 10 front row forwards. There's numbers there. So if there is some injuries in amongst this pack or there's down the track at some point this year, we could be turning there going, this going from him to him will free me up 400K, and he's got these numbers at the moment. He's got guaranteed minutes for the next 10 weeks, and they could become some really big options. So I feel like there's a lot of watching here to be done with the forward pack. As we've sort of already said, there's not many I'll probably look at starting with, but definitely be watching, keeping an eye on, and can definitely see myself having at some point this year, maybe even around that Origin time, things like that. So halfback. Now we've got Ethan Sanders come over from the Eels, halfback, 244K, average of 50 in 2 games last year. Jamal Fogarty, 535K, the Fog Express. Look at him in his hoodie, looking fantastic, looking sharp. Goodness gracious me.
And Fogarty. I believe you didn't find a shirtless picture of him. You're obsessed with some of these blokes at the moment with shirts off.
Yeah. I couldn't
see the arms on him.
Oh. Yeah, that's why I couldn't do it. He's
breaks the internet.
I couldn't look at that. I wouldn't be able to talk for the whole Raiders podcast if I had him up there. No shirt.
Cannot believe it.
You know what? what I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually going to throw this one to you, Joel, because there's no bigger advocate for Fogarty out of the three of us than you. So why let us speak when, you're the number one? So please tell us.
You jumped
Jamal
in for me,
Fogarty.
Jesse. Thanks, buddy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, look, I want to talk, but I can't do this a disservice. I remember that we did put up a status. I put one up a while ago. I need to bring it up. I need to find it. While I do that, so we're not boring the viewers, I'll let you start. I'll come over the top once I find this because
So
I can't
I'll
do this
jump in.
justice without the numbers.
All right. So, Jesse, I'll quickly jump in and then you can add some more. So, I'm pretty keen on Ethan Sanders, and there's a lot of talk around. I've seen a couple of articles. I've watched Ricky Stewart in an interview. There's a lot of talk around Ethan Sanders. So, I've currently got him sitting in my second half back spot. Just to play it and see what happens. I've now moved up to Cleary as my first halfback, so I'm happy to find a really cheap guy there. I'm not going to go doubles because I'm still locked into the three fullbacks in my flex position. But yeah, so pretty high on Sanders. There's the 50 average off 2 matches. Obviously, that's only 2 matches last year. But yeah, so there's a lot of talk around what he might be able to do and that he's the pairing next to Fogarty. So I think that's going to be a really good call. And in terms of Fogarty, I'll let Joel get to there. But yeah, I just sort of thought I'd talk quickly about Sanders.
Thanks, Trav. Thanks for filling in the blanks for me. Now let me get back to Fogarty. Mate, I'm big on him. I'm seriously still tempted to start with him this year. And let me talk to you. I think last year he started on fire. I had him in draft. I was worried at the start. I didn't really realize what I actually got myself into. And I quickly realized I'm sitting pretty nicely here with Fogarty in my team and had him one of my last choice players in my halves, I think it was at the time. So I was very, very happy with it. Now, rounds 1 to 6 last year, he averaged 63.8. His price currently, let's not forget, at 535, so 53.5. Rounds 1 to 6, 2024 last year, his highest score was round 6, a 96 against the Titans. Now, I'm not saying he's in the Cleary category, not at all. But when it's notorious that players start a bit slower, there's something that keeps bringing me back to Fogarty, and the fact that Canberra are so reliant on him that anything they do to start the year is going to have Fogarty's hands all over it. And I just think that means tries, assists. He's obviously the goal kicker for him as well. I just can see him cruising to like a 60, 65 early on. And maybe depending on how we see the Raiders start the season, maybe edging a little bit more. And I'm just trying to work out my team in the best way about it. And look, I will probably no doubt end up starting with Cleary just for the safety blanket of Cleary. But there's and I know you've mentioned there, Jesse, with having this 2RF, the second spot for halfback. I'm so tempted to go the first spot, though. It frees me up to do so much.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't have Cleary. And that's why I put it in there, halfback 2 slot. Like I've got Cleary and Hines. Man, I could save, what's that? 200K? Because Hines is 735. He can keep up with the big boys at the beginning of the season. It's just, the Raiders are so reliant on him. He's a 60 plus averaging halfback, I would say, pretty comfortably. Like last year was a 54 with a torn bicep. He came back, it was a bit broken. The year before that, I suppose, 52, 62 before that, a 58 before that. So he's right up and about. He's so crucial for the Raiders. If he's not there, the Raiders are nowhere. Yeah. That's basically it. So kicks at 80%. Got no tries last year either. So, put a couple of tries in there, goes his average straight up. It's all profit really at the end of the day too. So I like him. I don't know if I'll start with him. He's definitely on my radar. I know he was on my radar last year too when Cleary went down. And I think I ended up actually going to Brooks instead of Fogarty, and it worked out to be terrible over the next month. And then he did his bicep and I thought, well, there you go. I suppose it's not the worst thing. Well, it was for him, but yeah, for my side, it wasn't. But yeah, look, I can't knock anyone for doing it. Hey, like, I don't know if I'd rely on him as my starting halfback and going cheaper than him, because then you're so far away trying to work away to Cleary and, whoever else wants to explode. But I think there is definitely merit in him as a second, because we're talking, even Daly Cherry Evans is a second option if you wanted to save a bit of coin. Fogarty kicks, so like they might be able to keep up with each other. He's got the ceiling on him. He almost turned up last year in that one game, so he can definitely do it. But I think he's very reliable for a 60 most of the time. So yeah, I don't mind it.
I'll give you a prediction. I reckon by round 6 will be your first mid-year or during year power rankings ratings. I think Fogarty will be going with the green arrows upwards, no doubt about it. Wherever he starts, he'll have the green arrows going up in the power rankings, and he'll be looking mighty fine. But by that time, I'll probably be looking at getting off him. So it'll be, he's got to his peak, and thank you very much for doing your job. So, anything else to add on the Fog? There's probably a lot more I could just salivate on him, but I think I'd be more going towards the NRL point of view, and I'm trying to keep it to Supercoach tonight.
1% ownership.
Happy?
Unbelievable. 1%'s wild.
Pod.
Yeah. Mega
Pod
pod.
City. Pod City. Alrighty. The 5'8" spot. So we've got Ethan Strange, 484K, and then we've got Kyo Weeks with a fullback dual, 530K. Trav, talk to us. 5'8". Are you entertaining any of these two?
I'm not. No, I'm not. No. Look, Strange is at 484. He's 2% owned. Weeks is at 530. 6% owned. I'm starting to see a bit of talk about Weeks in terms of, and the fact that they're about to. He's probably locked in the fullback role, which makes his price and average look pretty juicy. He's a fullback 5'8" dual, but I'm just not sold on that just yet. I did rave about him yesterday in the in our preview show and think that he's definitely locked that number 1 spot away, and I think he's going to do a really good job. But just at 530, I don't see huge upside that I want to pick him at either of those spots. He's certainly one that I'll wait and see. And look, if he blows it and brains it, I'll certainly get on him because of where I've gone with how I've set up my team. But at this point in time, I'm not interested in him.
Yeah, I'm not big on either of these two at the moment. I want to watch what happens with Ethan Strange. I think he moves to the centers. I've just got this feeling. So I just want to see where I actually believe he can score quite well there. I just need to see what he's doing there because it's an awkward price at the moment, and I think there's better to start the season. There's better players, better priced around that sort of mark that would do a bigger upside, I guess, game and have less risk involved. Jesse?
Yeah, like Strange has lost his center and he's a bit too pricey. And that's the thing, like we're talking Sanders probably going to be the 5'8", potentially. Weeks had a run through the halves last season as well. Obviously, Fogarty's back, so I don't think that's going to happen with Rapana gone. He's definitely going to be the fullback. It's just a bit too much for Strange. I just want to sort of see what happens there because he was a good buy last year. He was probably one of the high. I think he was the highest owned cheapie last season total. So yeah, it's he's reached his value and that's pretty much it for him. But with Weeks, I'm definitely keen on a fullback at 5'8". You know what I mean? Like there's so much potential there for it. It's a second year through at the Raiders. Like it'll be another thing for him. But his scoring is very divided between fullback and half, where his average determines. So he played 9 games at fullback last year, averaged 47. He played 8 games in the halves, averaged 62. So it's a big jump between fullback and half, and we're expecting him to be fullback off a 47 average, which will make him lose cash overall. So it just depends. And like the Raiders have lost a lot at the same time. Like Rapana's a big loss. They've got a few things that they've got to shuffle around. Like there's a lot of uncertainty. We never know what the Raiders are going to do. So in the same time, like he's going to be the fullback. Sweet. That's good. Can he increase on a 47? Because it wasn't a big average when he was at Manly. It was quite poor, to be fair. So, but again, that was in the halves. And in the halves, he scored quite well. So I just want to watch. I just want to see it because, we're screaming for 5'8" value. And fullback is such a high upside position. If he does blow up and, start banging him out, I'd definitely be keen for sure. But yeah, not at this stage.
Yep. No, fair enough. Centre wings for the Canberra Raiders. So we've got Michael Asamoah. 198K. Savilio Tamale, 232K. Sebastian Chris, 405K. Xavier Savage, 428K. Albert Hopewadi, 454K. And Matty Tomoko, 518K. Now, unless it's for a draft, a later sort of pick, I don't have any appeal for any of these players. They've all got up their price now. They're not those little nice cheapies that we had last year. So I'm just a bit meh when it comes to this backline.
I love
Trav?
Tomoko.
Jesse? Yeah, if I'm getting him in draft around that sort of back half of the draft, and I'll get him no doubt about it. He's just consistent, that 50 odd, nice, get me those points. But in my actual Supercoach team, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. He's just a worker. Yeah, he's a tackle buster. He's a bit of a gun. So he always spikes at some point in the year too. He usually skyrockets in price. He'll have a couple of good games and then he'll just plateau a little bit, and you kind of miss the run every time with him unless you have him to begin with. But outside of no, not really. I'm not gonna go anywhere. I've got Tamale in my side. I think he's probably one of the higher cheapy prospects at this stage, and I know Hopewadi's ruled himself out because of his child being due at Vegas. So congratulations to the expecting father and the mother, obviously. But he's not going to be there round one, so it kind of opens a door up. And apparently it's him. Tamale's probably going to get a look in there. So it just depends, We don't really have a lot of cheapy options at the moment. We're kind of just guessing. So he's in my side, hoping it kind of works out for him.
Trav, anything to add on these center? Are you seeing something that we're not?
No, I'm not. I was going to talk about Tamale. I think he's unfortunately just going to be a round one pick. And then you're going to end up being stuck with a guy at 232, which is a problem that you don't want to have, because obviously I think as soon as Hopewadi comes back from his absence, he'll take that spot, because Tamale's not kicking Tomoko out. He's not kicking Savage out. He potentially might take Chris's spot, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. So, and it's a different role. So, the 18% owned at the moment for Tamale. I think that's just because that's a price, a stakeholder basically. So just watch that space for him and don't get sucked into if it's a first round. Like, unless you hear something where he's locked in, don't get sucked into the fact that he's been named, because you'll end up probably having to trade him and you're going to get stuck. You need to really do your research on that one. So at the moment, I'm saying try and avoid. Other than that, you touched on Tomoko. I really like Tomoko. I think you're right. I just don't think Raiders have enough scoring potential to make Tomoko take that next step. So as much as I like him, I don't have him on my radar in Supercoach here for this.
Leave him for me for draft. Thanks, boys. Fullback for the Raiders. Manai, I'm seriously sick of not being able to roll my R's. It's stuffing me every single time, so I apologize. I'm just not even going to go there. Sevi Stewart, through 32K, and we've already spoke about Kyo Weeks with that 5'8" duel. It looks like it to start the year at least. It's Weeks' jersey to lose, so I think he will start. So Chevy Stewart with only that fullback as well, I just don't think at the moment he's not a viable option, and he's going to be up against Iongi for those sort of cheapy spot in the fullback. If you're going to go one, you're probably going Iongi. I think Chevy didn't set the world on fire last year, so it's just I don't have too much to say here.
Not really. 3 games, average 26. It's not good signs. So he's got a bit of work to do. A lot of potential, kills it in his grade, but yeah, I think he's a bit of a ways off right now. I think Weeks has got the spot locked down, and we already spoke about him really. So
yeah.
And
Trav, anything to add?
As our boy Jake said, Ricky Stewart's son, is probably still he's still not great. He's I had to give him a shout out for that. I was waiting all night to do that. So yeah, no, I'm not interested in Chevy Stewart, but they are at the Raiders very high on him. So I just don't think that he's got the full back spot. I think it's Kyle Weeks' spot. So Kyle Weeks is going to have that. It's as simple as that, and it's his spot to lose, as you said. I think Kyle Weeks is going to lock that in. And he's not going to be anywhere near the worst fullback in the competition. So I think it's a if you're a fullback at the Raiders other than Kaya Weeks, you're looking at another spot.
It's honestly worth, if you haven't yet, go and listen or watch that part, because he says it so confidently last night, how much he just said it like he's so 100% on it. And then he made me actually think for a second, oh yeah, sweet, like, okay. And I was like, hang on, it's not even spelt the same. There's no chance that they're father, son. So, oh goodness me, Jake, that was absolutely one of your best, and gives me a good giggle. I love it. But anyway, that is the Canberra Raiders. That's what we've got for them. Let us know in the comments if you think we've missed anyone, or there is a Raider that you're very, very high up on that we should be basically guaranteeing in our side to start the year. Happy to hear your thoughts, as we always are. Or get in the Legends group, show us those Raiders players in your team, and yeah, go from there. So next up, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I've been promised by the boys that this is the big one in this group. This is the one they want to talk about. There is a number of options in almost every single position. So pre-warning for that one, guys, but this could make some great, great content. We might be here for about 6 hours. No, we won't be. We'll get through it. So hooker, Peter Mamazelos, 302K, and Saliva Havili with a 2RF dual, 319K. I'm just going to quickly switch this slide over, and there we go. Sorry, and the first 5, I've forgotten about this one. So the round 1, Dolphins away. Round 2, Dragons away. Round 3, the Sharkies away. Round 4, Penrith at home. And round 5, Roosters at home. So few away games to start the year, then it balances out nicely. But it's a couple of difficult, sort of tough sort of teams. I guess the Roosters are a bit easier at this time of year with just some injuries, and they're getting used to the players that they have lost. So a little bit of just as the first question is there, we will talk about before we talk on those hookers. Deceptively tough draw to start the year. It is when you actually start to look at it a bit more on paper. It's not ideal because, as you've both said, and we'll talk about a lot more in this podcast, is that there's a lot of options. There's a lot of players that you're both very keen on and very high on, but maybe that comes straight back with this sort of draw, maybe, boys?
Yeah, so we think the Dolphins are going to be much better, and and it's round 1, right? So every team has worked for 6 months, or at least 4 to 6 months, trying to prepare for round 1. So that's going to be a tough game. The Dragons away, I don't see it being a super tough game, but I think there's a potential for them to lose that one. Shark Park's tough. Got Penrith in round 4. Roosters at home. Then they got the Cowboys at home. Then they got to go to play the Bulldogs. Then they got the Storm, and then it rounds off with the Knights and then the Broncos. So like it's actually it's more than deceptive. Like it is. It is tough. It is hard, and there's a lot to account for in that. I do, however, think that there are a few players that we'll cover over this Rabbitohs team that, even with a tough draw, are still going to score pretty well. So, I mean, we can cover that. But yeah, that's sort of, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit further on that draw.
Yep. Any something with the draw, Jesse?
No, I was going to say, it just doesn't really ease up after that 5 too. It kind of gets a bit trickier too. The Storm, round 12 bye. So like you got to plan that as well around your origin stuff too. So you could lose a fair few of them for an extended period of time. But yeah, because I was reading through it and I was like, oh crap, that's not a quick, easy run through. And we all have a fair few of them. 2, 3, depending on, how your side's made up. Yeah, I think we kind of just have the bit of like the Bennett effect over the rose, glasses, and we think it's all going to be great and dandy for them. But I think they're probably going to have a bit of a hard time with a couple of these games. So something to consider.
That's potentially put me off a little bit, to be honest. I haven't looked too much into their draw until obviously now. I just haven't got around to it as of yet. But yeah, that's coming up a little bit. But hookers, talk to us, Jesse. What's coming to your mind with the hookers?
Oh, obviously, Mamazelos is massive talking point. I think he's very popular starting, cheap hooker option for those that have got, the Mamazelos, Sand and Smith combination, which is very, very popular. 7 games last year I've just, put in like over 40 minutes because you're obviously expecting him to be either starting. I've seen some talk about Havili starting, but who knows right now? Obviously, I still think he's going to get a decent run.
Humphries.
Say 60 odd minutes, yeah. Humphries too. So there's always, potential there. But last season. 7 games at hooker, averaged 54 minutes, scored 48 points. So decent, decent. For his price right now anyway, I don't think he can really do too bad with it. It's just a cheap hooker pick. There's not a great deal of upside, but for the price, I think it's great value. 302k. Yeah, if he does what's expected, there's probably a good 150k at least to be made out of him, and it just plugs a hole at hooker for very, very little, breaking the bank. So yeah, I like it. I keep flipping back and forth between whether I want him or just Connor Watson and just stick with someone long term. But yeah, he's definitely the guy I would go to if I needed someone cheap, and Moser doesn't appear.
I was about to ask you, I guess the question straight to my mind before I quickly throw the Trav would be, we've got probably 3 notable cheapy hookers that I think most people are at least going one. There's a lot more I've seen starting to go 2 of them, and just to go, yeah, whatever, let's just take the hit on that position. So you've obviously got Sandon Smith, Mamazilis, and Blake Moser. How would you rate those 3 quickly? Would Mamazilis be the top of that list, or you've got Sandon Smith, I feel like, the top?
Sandon Smith will be the top for me. 80 minutes, which we're all expecting. These other 2 aren't probably going to get 80. Plus the potential of goal kicking too. There's a lot more upside with Sandon Smith, and he's cheaper and he's dual. It's great. You just can't knock that one. I would put Mamazilis second at this stage, and then Moser third, just because we really don't know. And there's Pakes, there's Walters, there's all these other guys that could be their hooker. And then Hunt, potentially down the line later in the season, what happens there with him, if Reynolds comes back. There's so many things with the Broncos, but with the Rabbits, it's Mamazilis, and then Havili might do a bit of a role, and then Humphreys potentially, but Cody Walker's injured to start the year, so where does Humphreys line in potentially? What's White? There's so many things there too, so I think there's a bit more certainty around him than there is Moser at the very least, but I would still put Sandon Smith at the top of those 3.
Trav, sorry, I don't know if we've left you with too much for the hookers, but feel free to add anything we've missed.
No, I don't have anything. I think I agree totally with Jesse's ranking of those top 3. I'm very keen on Moser, and I think Broncos are doing a massive disservice to themselves and their future by not looking after this bloke. But it is what it is. I think Sandon Smith is a no-brainer there, and yeah, I would go second Mamazilis easily. The Cody Walker injury has kind of been really timely because it's kind of shut the Jamie Humphreys conversation a little bit. The world was very, very chatty about we're not keen on Mamazilis because we're just not sure about what's going to happen with Humphreys. So, I think that's kind of plugged that a little. So I'm happy to start with Mamazilis as well, and he is also in my team.
Currently 31% ownership for Peter Mamazilis as well. I actually anticipate that will slowly continue to rise as we get closer to the season start. I think he might be edging towards that 40 number by season's kickoff. Front row forwards. So we've got Liam LeBlanc, 232k. Shaq Mitchell, 270k. Tavita Totola, Jesse's boy, 343k. Sean Kepi, 354k. Davey Mawali, 389k. And Jai Arrow with a 2RF dual, 497k. Trav, I'll let you start here so you can steal all the talking points. Off you go.
Oh, you don't have to. These are all, but thanks. It's nice to be looked after for once.
Oh, shit.
There's a couple of things to talk about here. I'm just going to pull up the numbers. So sorry for a second. I might leave Totola for you boys because I know you guys are very keen on him. So I might leave that there. Kepi.
Easy money.
Kepi, hey.
Easy money.
Oh, maybe you should go and then I'll continue. Go.
No. You're going, Kepi.
No, I'm not interested in Kepi, so I'm not interested there.
Don't do it.
I'm not interested in Davey Moali. I'm also trying to steer clear of that. Although I do see Davey Moali in a lot of predicted lineups, and also starting, particularly in that 10 spot. But at this point in time, I need to just wait and see what happens there, particularly with who's going to play in the halves and how that half looks like with Dodd and things like that. So I really just want to see what happens with that. I'm not keen on Jai Arrow. I think Jai Arrow is and has played a part in teams past, but I think that's it and he's done. So he's 2% owned. I highly suggest people don't get him. And then the other, oh no, that was it. I'm sorry, I got confused with someone else that I want to talk about in 2F. But yeah, only Totola really is left.
Yeah, it's because he's great value. Here we go again, huh? Flashbacks. Look,
Don't
career
do
average, 70 games at prop, 52 average, 49-minute average, priced off 33 average, even though he averaged 39 last year. It's not exciting. It was not exciting last year when I went for it either. I just think for his price, he's going to be a 50-minute prop. I don't see how he loses any of them, and he's probably going to average in the mid-40s, if not a smidge higher. So at the very least, 343. If he's your third front rower, that's all right. It's money to be made.
He needs
He's
to
not
get
on
on
my
the field
side.
as well.
Yeah, well, there's that. When he broke his foot, didn't he, last year?
Yeah, he's
So
not
they're
due
always
back until around 3 at the moment. So just I'm
Yeah.
not looking at him.
they're always really hard to come back from too. So he might drop a little. I just think either way, like his price is so low. There's not great deal of upside, but off base, he will at least hit 100k more than what he's currently priced at. If that's a slow burn that you're willing to take, I think he's still a reliable enough play for your backup.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it this year.
Yeah. No, I for me, none of these front row forwards entertain me. So 2RF, I'm going to skip through these 198Ks from now. And respectfully, they're not important unless we will point out the ones that are. Ben Lovett, 214K. Lachlan Hubner, 232K. Josh Schuster, the new signing from Manly, 265K. We've already mentioned Havili, who was the hooker jewel. Jacob Host, 351K. Tallis Duncan, 420K. Jai Arrow, we've already mentioned. Ewan Aitken from the Dolphins, 587K. Cam Murray, 610. And Keon Kalamatangi, 619K. The top dogs, 3% ownership for Kalamatangi, 4% ownership for Cam Murray. We have a talking point here on Cam Murray, so let's tackle him first. He is cleared now for round 1. Apparently, he will be playing, so that's huge. Jesse, I know you were so keen on him at almost one of the first team lists we did. Is that gone back up now that this news has been confirmed?
Mate, the second I saw he was cleared, he was in my side. He went straight in. He just went straight in. I was like, beautiful.
Same thing.
Here he is, 100%, man. He will be in my side long term, providing he doesn't do anything silly. But I love it. I loved it before we could even get team pickers out. He was in my team list when me and Trav were writing it all up on a pen and pad. So, I think that 4% at this stage is extremely low. I expect that to jump at least another 10 to start with, if not more. Yeah, 610 for Cam Murray. Like that's what we were talking about at the end of last season. We're just like slow down on these last few games to keep that average a little bit lower, but he didn't listen. He went gangbusters and averaged 90 in the last couple of rounds. And he still only averaged 610. Like he's still only priced at a 610. I think it's a bargain for him. So yes, guaranteed starter for me.
I think he's one of those players, the harder draw actually becomes more of a temptation because he'll just work his ass off basically. So perfect.
Yeah, it's just everything about it. I'm all for it. I always want Cam Murray in my side. So excellent. It's good to know Travis on the same boat too.
Yeah, he was in my first team, and everyone sort of had a crack at us for going, "Oh, have these boys got any idea what they're talking about?" Because he's injured, and I said, "Well, hang on a second," and I did write that. And there's one of the comments that says, "Just hang on a second." So and have a look.
Let him cook.
Maybe we do know a little bit, but so I will come back to that, and I thought that was a good chance for me to have a dig at that. But look,
been waiting.
I have been. Cam Murray is now in my side, and I'm very, very happy to have that. I've actually dropped all of Ola Kawatu down to him, which freed up $70,000. Thank you very much. $60,000. Thank you very much. So I am very, very happy to have him in my team. The issue that I've got with Cam Murray, that is a potential, but I'm trying not to, unless it's like discipline issues. I'm trying to ignore injuries as such. I'm just going to try and I just think Cam Murray with it just needs to have a big year, and I think he's going to look after himself. And I hope that injuries are going to look after him. So I'm just ignoring that side of it. I reckon Cam Murray was probably the second person that Wayne Bennett went to in the club when he walked in the door and said, "Here we go. I'm back, buddy. Let's have a monster year." So I think obviously the first person is someone we're going to talk about at the end, but I think that was ready. So I just think Cam Murray has been chomping at the bit. The thing is, even with that injury that he's got, I have no problems with it. Cam Murray is the type of guy that will just carry that injury and still perform, and I'm just really keen to see it. I am pissed off at him. I'm a bit angry at him. It's like I'm like that ex-girlfriend of his. I'm still holding that grudge of what he did to me at the end of last year, because Jesse said it. Like, we were hoping that he would just bomb out and then I could get him around the 550K. So the prick bloody played well and ended up pushing up to 610. So I'm a bit angry at that. But the biggest talking point of Cam Murray returning is what and how that affects Kula-Matangi, because I've been very keen and very high on Kula-Matangi, and Kula-Matangi's been in my team for a very long time, and only just recently I removed him. I think Cam Murray has a really big effect on what he does there, if you boys want to have a quick chat about that.
Yeah, the implications around Kula-Matangi, obviously not at lock, are pretty big. You'd expect him to go, well, Murray goes into his lock spot. 60 or almost a 69 average career average at lock, over 100 games. It's huge, man. And we've got him for 610. Like, I just love that so much. So, if you start talking Keon, he doesn't get that big spot that he had last year. He averaged 84 in 4 games at lock last season. So, it just depends, really. It depends on how they use him and where they put him. He's a beast in the middle. He just kills it in the middle. Like, Supercoach scoring wise, he's everywhere. On the edge, not so much. It drops off to 56 average instead of an 84. Like, that's a massive drop. So I'm not as keen on him anymore. But at the same time, I was always more keen on Murray. And for the 9K discount, I think it's a no-brainer. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Murray over Keon in general. So, yeah, but he's always that guy that I very much want at some stage, because he passes the eye test all the time. I feel like he's just an absolute gun when you watch him and you're thinking, geez, like, this guy's got to be on 70 plus half time. Sometimes he is. So yeah, it's Murray returning throws him and I reckon Tallis Duncan out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as valuable as what they could have been potentially, but yeah, we get Murray back, so I'm not complaining at all.
The other one to talk about is Schuster, 32% owned.
Where does Schuster play?
Bench.
On the bench.
I just don't know where he plays. I don't know. Like, he's such a popular cheapie option, because he had that that season at Manly when he was playing in the second row, averaged pretty well, a lot of potential there for 265. I just being realistic with it. Where does he play? I just don't see it. I think he's a great prospect. I think for the price, 32% ownership's astronomical. He's not in my side. I don't think I've really, besides the very first time when I punched it all together, I haven't humored it at all. I want to see a lot out of him first. He's got a lot of, question marks, more than anyone. So
I've not had him in one of my teams yet. I don't plan on having him in any of my teams. Again, huge watch. I can't see him making his way into the starting side. So if he is on the odd chance chosen, let's say round 1, it'll be on the bench. I can't see him playing any more than a small stint as well with that. So for mine, I just don't see value for him immediately. Like, maybe down the track when an injury or two happens, when he does start to force his way into longer minutes at 265K, definitely some value potentially. But on paper, looking at things, I can't see it. I really can't see it at the moment.
Plus, there's always Ewan Aiken as well to look at. He's
Yeah.
obviously injured, but Ewan Aiken's going to be great at the Rabbits. I'm really keen to see him. It's a shame he's lost his dual center. I always find that super valuable for him, but it'll just be a wait and see. I'm just very confused about how the forwards kind of line up with them, because there's a lot of talk about who is starting prop. Obviously, McWiley. You'd expect Totola to get in that spot when he comes back. Who are the edges? I would expect Koloamatangi and Aiken as well to be there to the second rowers. But then, do you want Keon in the middle? Yeah, it's so much. Hey, that's why Cameron Murray, he's the only one I want. He's the most nailed, most certain.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think there's just too many questions around who is going to go where and what's going to happen. We know that Aiken's going to be there, but he's injured. I think J.I.R. will probably take that spot on the left in the back row there. I think then they'll push Koloamatangi to an edge, and that immediately stops his super coach, as your stats just pushed out for us, as you said, just rightly so before, Jesse. But it's all just us trying to make our own predictions and what might happen, and we just don't know just yet. So TLT will be a big chat, but even then TLT is going to be even then I still think it's a bit deceptive about what TLT can do for us. And I think it's just this is a team that we're going to have to sit down and watch. We're going to have to see over a few weeks to see how Bennett makes that change, how it all gels. As much as we're raving about how good the Rabbitohs are, they've at this point in time they're actually sort of somewhat limping into the season. There's a few injuries here, there, and everywhere, and it's actually affecting a few bits. So we've just got to be able to. It's a wait and watch and see, and hope that we don't miss out too much on some of these
100%.
bigs.
Halfback. Let's get into it. Jamie Humphries. A lot has been spoken about with him. 305k. Lewis Dodd, the English import. Again, that 336k mark that just entices Jesse so much. And Cody Walker with the dual 5'8", 559k. Where are we at here with these guys? Jesse, I'm going to throw to you first because I know you love talking about Cody Walker.
I'm not doing it. I'll never do it. That's the end of it. He's injured. I don't like Cody Walker as a play. I think he does have relevancy in Supercoach as a 5'8", because he's always nearabouts that top 3, top 4. I think the game's changed a lot. I think there's better options. Back when it was just really him, Munster, Brown occasionally. There's the top 3, but now you've got so many more players, Burton and Campbell, Galvin. There's just too many more that I like so much more to watch. He's a very unlikable character to watch. So not for me. And 8% ownership. Yeah, they're going to have to change that pretty quick because I don't think he's starting the season. No. But he's a jewel, which is, valuable from last season. He obviously got that upgrade. But yeah, not for me at all. Lewis Dodd. I do like a 336k English import, but I don't know about this one.
Is that the third time you've said that?
Yeah, it's relevant for all of them, but I don't know about this one. It's in the halves. I'm fine to go for a forward or a center, but I just don't know about a halfback. I'd rather just get the guns. Could be good value, but Ilias wasn't there, and he was similar priced. So, yeah, it's very much a watch and see what comes from him.
A slightly different team and coach, slightly different, I'd say. But
yeah, of course. But you look at it could have been because he had signed with the Rabbits that he got dropped in the Super League. His Super League stats weren't fantastic. So just have to see how it translates over because they're bang average, if that.
And Wayne didn't even know who he was. So
yeah. So yeah, I don't expect, honestly, I expect nothing from him. Yeah. It could be a 35 average, and I'd be like, well, that's pretty much what I expect. If he goes any bigger, sweet, good on him. But I'm not tempted.
I think Lewis Dodd should own a couple of lotto tickets because I think he's just walked into a really nice situation for himself, and that's why he's got the spot. But so I'm not keen on him at all. However, I did say that I'm keen to watch him in the NRL pod in the preview show that we had yesterday. But Supercoach wise, I'm just happy just to sit back and watch. As much as you like Jesse, a 330k Englishman. There are a few that I'm definitely not interested in. He's one of them. Cody Walker. I am also, I've read reports today that that it's still talking about being in doubt for round 1. So there was one report that says he's been cleared. There's another, and then there was 2 other reports that time after that was released that say he's still in doubt. So at this point in time, he is injured. And so therefore I'm not keen on him. I also just I get how good he is. I get what he's been able to do in the past, but I think it's just beyond Cody Walker in his elite days. I think Cody Walker is still a really good player. I think Cody Walker still does a really good job and can lead this team. But those elite days are over. So I'm happy to watch and see and have Cody Walker prove me wrong. And I owned him last year. Was quite happy to own him for a large chunk of the second half of that year. So I'm keen to see if he does prove me wrong to get him, because I think I think he could potentially be a decent buy. But at this point in time, I'm just going to sit and watch and see what happens with him. And as you said, rightly so, Jesse, there are plenty of other 5'8" options. And at this point in time, you really have to sell me big time to get me off Dearden.
Yeah.
Talking about 5'8", there is one extra addition for the Rabbitohs to have a look at here. That's Jack Whiten, 486k. Obviously, Cody Walker, we just mentioned, has the dual. Any temptation with Jackie Whiten will be moving back to centers this year for 49.7 average. Currently, 8% actually own Jack Whiten. Thoughts?
It's quite high percentage, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, look, I don't mind the duel. I think his value is at centre wing, probably why his average is a bit his ownership's a bit more inflated at 8% because we split between two. I think in the 5'8" position that we have this stage of the year, we're kind of screaming for someone who's not 600k. And I think Whiten could fit the bill pretty well at 486 as a duel. I think he might even start off as a 5'8" this year as well, instead of in the centres. So he's got good value, possibly. It's very up and down, but his big games are massive and his low games are really low. So, yeah, I wouldn't really be keen to start with him as such, but I see why the ownership is where it is, just because of how dire the 5'8" position is. So, yeah, he's got a 9-game average at center of 53. So it's still, if he even lines up at center, it's still decent. It's still underpriced. Even in the halves too, 52 average of the half season. So, yeah, you just got to expect the Rabbits to be better than they have been, and him to improve, because he's a quality player, with a quality coach now. So, yeah, I expect him to. There's an uptick for Whiten for sure.
Yeah, I like Whiten, but there's two dudes that are cheaper than him that I would prefer to go before I go pick Whiten as a 5'8", and that's Metcalf and Dewey, and I haven't got either of those two. So in my team, so that's where I sort of sit with Whiten. I think Whiten's elite. I think he's very similar to Walker. I think Whiten is a good player. Whiten's going to have monster games, but Whiten's also going to get stuck out the centres at times and not really score much at all. So, yeah, Supercoach wise, I'm not keen on Whiten.
Yep. No, that's fair enough. Centre wings for the Rabbitohs. So, Fletcher Myers comes in at 322k. Isaiah Tass, 327k. Tyrone Munro, 397k. Alex Johnston, 433k. We've already spoken about Jack Whiten. And finally, Campbell Graham, who actually played no games out of all these players and starts the highest at 505k. There is a bit of a question here. There's a bit of a dilemma when it comes to Campbell Graham, because I think everyone out of the blocks shot out and was like, yep, get him on. Works his ass off. Unfortunately, now he's been ruled out for a couple of weeks with an injury already. Seems to be the story of his current career, I'll say, which is unfortunate because he's a gun. I think we all forget just how good he was when he was playing consistent football, and how good he is at this Supercoach game as well, and how consistent he can score. That's what we're all hoping for. That's why I think that he's still at 15%. Obviously, some people haven't updated their teams yet. I anticipate that will drastically fall. There's not many that will start with him if he's not obviously starting. So I won't be starting with him now. I want to now. I'll go back a little bit. I'll pull the reins back, and I'll just wait and watch the first probably few weeks to see how he does go when he does return eventually, and then just go from there. This injury has completely changed my thinking around him. I definitely think he's a good gun player at this game, and I will have him eventually. I just want to see that probably 3 or 4 game run put together before I go in on him.
It's a bit like that.
I'll go.
Yeah, look, the broken hand has thrown everything. He was one of the first players in my side picked pretty much every time I rebuilt my team. And, for 500 odd K for a guy that averaged 68 in his last season. Obviously, didn't play last year, but 68 in 2023, that's massive. He was almost in the top 10 for centre wings. So just having a look at the numbers, a little bit skewed, but that's the highest averaging centre wing in that season was 77 with Marzu. So, he was only 9 points off him, and we get him for, actually the same price as Marzu this year. So there's a lot of value at 500. And that's kind of why it's very easy to look elsewhere now with this news, because you can go to Marzu, you can go to Skelton, you can go to Isaac Tungo, you can go up slightly to like a Tuivasa Sheck if you're going to go out that sort of route. There's a lot of options at his price. So that's the thing. He's the best. If he was fit and ready, I think he's an absolute no-brainer at his price compared to the other guys around him. But yeah, look, if he's in doubt, I've seen reports 2 to 4 weeks. I've seen 4 to 6 weeks. Kind of puts him off to maybe round 2 or 3, or he starts. I don't know. It's a broken hand. Like, you don't want to really take too many chances there, but it recovers fairly quickly. So, yeah, with that, I think I will probably fade him to start, and I'm going to hate doing it because it's a matter of time before I just trade him in. But it's going to be really dependent if he's fit and ready. If he's back round 2, I might even just run with it, depending on what cheapies emerge, and if I know I can save myself a trade there, because I definitely want him. I think his upside is way too high for someone at 500k. For what we know he can definitely do on a consistent basis. But yeah, the fitness side of things for him has just been so bloody unlucky. He's always injured. So yeah.
Trav?
I think you guys summed it up really well. And even all the reports, one report came out yesterday morning that's saying, oh, he's been cleared, he's all good. And then a report about an hour later said x-rays have confirmed a broken hand, he's got a 4 to 6 week injury. And we're all sitting there going, what? Like, you're both really highly rated news pieces, and you both got contradicting reports. So I think at the end of the day, it's we just sit and wait and see. So to talk about this, if he's named for TLT, I'm picking Campbell Graham. It's as simple as that. If he's named and he recovers, I'm picking Campbell Graham. If Campbell Graham is not picked, then, and more than likely he's probably going to miss a couple of games, awesome, because that means I'll probably go and get a Marju and just see what he does early with a good draw with the Knights. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to go down. And I can just simply sideways trade that to Campbell Graham, and I'm all good with that. There's a few, I can also go your Jack Howarth, who's only 50k cheaper than him, and I'll find 50k. Like, at the moment, I've got 113 sitting on my bank. So I'm going to be able to make it work at some point. So, but I'll make it really clear, and I'll be very clear. If Campbell Graham is named, Campbell Graham is picked in my Supercoach team. If he is not, I'm definitely not going to just sit him there and pick him and sit him there for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. So that's where it sits for me with Campbell Graham.
Another one I want to talk about quickly, Tyrone Munro. 397k, currently 14% ownership. There is temptation from me. I think there is a potential upside, especially tries, and a bit more of some attacking stats. I would like it to be a little bit more cheaper, though. There's just that 397 just feels a little bit of there could be some downside to it if the tries don't come for him. I don't know. Talk to me, Jesse. I was originally so keen on him, but for some reason, the longer this preseason goes, the less keen I am on having Munro. I'm
getting keener for him, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's in my side at the moment. Obviously, because Graham is out, I kind of didn't. I was really keen on him. I wanted him in my team, but I didn't want to have 2 center wings from the Bunnies. And I was like, if I want one of them, I'm going to go Graham, obviously. The boom potential for Munro is through the roof. We kind of saw it in 2023 in the limited games that he played. He just goes nuts, man. Like, absolutely crazy. He played what was it? Last season it was 37, a 72, and a 37. In 2023, he came in, scored at a 65 and then a 91, 47, and that was the end of the year for him. So, yeah, look, his base is incredibly low, probably one of the lowest for like the mid-tier center wing brackets at 24 with power, base and power, and that's across 2 seasons. So he needs the tries, but he can score the tries, and he's rapid. And I'm all about that sometimes. Like, for his price, for the upside, yeah, sweet. I know he can ton up. I know he can score, 3 tries in a game if he gets the service. So yeah, like I like it. but again, it comes with a really low floor. So, sort of approach with caution in a way. But I just like him. I reckon he's a good player. I think he's got a lot of go, especially with Bennett coming in now. So,
are you saying Ty Monroe's going to take Johnson's spot?
I think he is to start the season. I was seeing some stuff with there's some Rabbit supporters talking about him training on the left and being on the left. I was always expecting him to be outside Graham on the right hand side. That's where I think
that's where
he
he's
does
always
end up.
been, hasn't he? He's
Yeah,
always been on the right, and that's why they got Tass, isn't? And they just signed Tass on a 3-year deal. I think Tass takes Johnson's spot on the left.
I would hope so. But again, it just depends on with Graham too. So,
and if that's the case,
always...
so if that's the case, Tass takes that Alex Johnson spot, particularly because they just signed him. Ty Munro goes to the right. South Sydney Rabbitohs scored 52% of their tries last year on the left side and 26 on the right. I'm just not, that to me just sells me to I'm not overly keen on Ty Munro, and I need to wait and watch and see. And now if he's also going to and if he's also going to be, if we're also talking about Campbell Graham missing out and what we might it being injured, and I think that just to me also tells me I'm not overly keen on Ty Munro either.
Yeah, I started getting keener on him when there was a lot of people talking about him being on the left. That's why I was like, oh, okay. The left is always.
If he's named to the left, it's a different story. But yeah,
definitely.
From my research and what I've seen, Tass is going to be the incumbent left-hand side. Munro is on the right where he has been, and that's where it goes. But this is prefaced with the fact that we haven't seen TLT, nor do we know if Munro is going to be picked. And if he does go on that left, we all know which way Walker goes, although he's potentially not playing. But we also know which way Mitchell goes. So, hence the reason why there's 52% scored on the left side for the Rabbitohs.
He scored his best in the right-hand side, though. The 65, the 91, the 47 in 2023, they're all right-hand. Everything else was left for him last year. So,
I'll tell you what, TLT for the Rabbits is sounding more and more interesting as we go through this podcast. So, there's a lot we will find out once TLT hits on maybe a little bit in the trials.
In 2023, they scored 43% on the left and 42% on the right. So
it's just Graham, really, isn't it? It's where Campbell Graham is. If Campbell Graham is there, Munro's on. Very, very keen. So, yeah, and then you get two, and then you have to choose between the two, unless you're wrong with both. But otherwise, I think it does kind of put Tass in a bit of a conversation, even temporarily for his price.
Yeah.
327, it's quite cheap. If he's going to be on that side that,
someone's going to score him.
Scores all those tries. Yeah, exactly. It's an easy one.
And Bennett doesn't just throw 3-year deals to players. Like it's there's a reason for that. Eh? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm with you. He's getting a bit more tempting, Isaiah Tass. We will see. Fullback. There is someone, I guess, to talk about. Jai Gray, 541K. No, he isn't the one we're going to be talking about. Latrell Mitchell, he's currently 866K and 27% ownership. Latrell, expectations on the screen. Is he a realistic number one fullback this year in Supercoach? Who wants to tackle Latrell, boys? I know there's a lot to talk about here. Take it away.
Trav?
I'm just pulling up some stats. Do you mind if I...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, go.
I haven't got stats up for Latrell. I think Latrell's very much a feels kind of guy. I get my vibes out of him, and I just go, yeah, I'm happy with that. And he gets on that role. It's Latrell Mitchell, man. Like, I think he's got everything in the running for a Dally M contention. Like, the discussion's always there for him, but it's like, does he do it himself? And he kind of lets himself down a little bit. He looks fit. He looks good. There's positivity around the thing. Like, I think this could be a year for Latrell. I'm really tempted. He's pretty high. It's a bit of a, I'm kind of doing this to myself. He's pretty high on my draft prospects list. If, things can fall my way, I'll be looking there. I don't think I'll, go that far. I don't think he drops that far to me in 8th. But look, man, I like it. I think, yeah, he's a hard one to pass up to start the season with. I'm definitely set on starting with Turbo, and I'm very keen on Drinkwater. And I don't know if I can do the 3 fullbacks, but I'm like, far out. I really want to have Latrell. Honestly, like I really do. It was in my first team picker. And I was pretty keen then, and I'm still as keen as I would be then anyway. So yeah, man, it's a tricky one. I think if you do have him, the 26% or whatever it is, yeah, dude, 27% with confidence, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. My worry with him, and you can probably shut me up with this because you'll look at the numbers. These better teams that they've got, we're talking about the draw. It just, for me, straight in my head, I just feel like, no. I think your Pongers and then the other two you just mentioned, I probably put ahead of Latrell. But you might be look at those numbers, come back to me and go, well, he actually gets a good old solid 90 odd against these sorts of teams, and it changes the conversation once again. But yeah, I just Trav, your numbers. Well, I guess Jesse looks at that sort of thing.
I've got the
Well,
numbers.
you got him? Yeah.
Last season against top 8 teams, doesn't specify which top 8 teams, just the top 8. He averaged 80.5. The season before, it was 9 games. He averaged 72. The season before, 10 games against top 8s, he averaged 78. Pretty solid numbers, you know what I mean? And if you drop the 5 to 8 out of things, so just 1 to 4 in a side that, essentially got belted the last few years. Last year, 1 game 36. I'll have to see who that was against. But in 2023, he averaged 76. And this is between teams first to fourth. 2022, he averaged 85. So, yeah. Big game player, it appears.
So last year, Adney played the 3 teams that made the top 8. He played Manly, he got 110. He played Roosters, he got 36. He played the Bulldogs, got 69. Actually, I lie. And then he also played North Queensland Cowboys and got 107. So last year in his 11 games that he played, he scored above 80 in 7 of them. He had a 36, a 69, a 73, a 70 with the scores that he had below 80. The 100 scores, he had 113, 150, and 110. So they're big scores. Latrell Mitchell is back. Latrell Mitchell is ready to go. I think Latrell Mitchell has a fire lit under his backside. I think Wayne Bennett, first thing he did as soon as he took on the Rabbitohs job, I bet you he rang Latrell Mitchell and said, all right, Pui, let's go. I need you. 2025, you're my man. Let's go. Baby. He basically said that. Then he rang Cam Murray and said, Murray, I want you to go and talk to Mitchell and tell him to stop doing stupid shit because I need him. So that's what I think's happened. And I think Latrell Mitchell's ready to explode. Latrell Mitchell was my first player pick when our team picker came out. He was. I have had to take him out of my team at this point in time, but I did that because I thought he was suspended for first round. But I think the Indigenous game is accounted to it.
Yep.
So he's been able to. So he's now playing that first game. So I've just, and to be honest, I just haven't played too much with my team over the last week or so because. I'm just getting a bit sick of doing it because I just don't know what the cheapies are going to do, and I don't know how my team's going to look because of it. So I will, when I really do sit down and focus over it with in when TLT comes up from Vegas and that, find a way to get him in my team. I don't care who and how hard that draw is. Latrell Mitchell scores against everyone, and the fact that he has the kicking really helps. Do I think, though, that there is a few injuries and that concerns me in that team? Yes. So there is, to me, a little bit of a watch and see. There is a few injuries there. They are sort of limping into the start of the season. There are a lot of chatter around about their players and what they're doing and who's where and what they're doing. So I am a bit wary of Latrell Mitchell. But, yeah, once the TLT comes through, I'll be playing with my teams to try and find Latrell Mitchell in, unless something drastic happens over the next few weeks.
Very, very. I have not had him in my team once so far. I don't know why either. I just
because you don't get Supercoach.
I clearly don't.
Because everyone else makes your teams for you.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't told you to get him yet.
I didn't want to mention it. But the better overall ranking out of the two of us, Trav. So just pipe down, please, brother.
Well, it's
last question here is: how many is too many when it comes to South and their players? I'm looking at it.
This is reminding me of the question of the Storm. Are we really trying to compare the Rabbitohs to the Storm?
Oh,
I think
mate,
price
can you
wise,
quiet down a bit?
there's good
You've got
value
this
in the Rabbits.
cockiness about your team at the moment. I don't like it.
Just got to beat him.
It's just
there's
jealousy.
Good value, man. There's good value at the Rabbits. I think 3, to be fair. I don't like doing more than 3 regardless, to be fair. Any more than that, you kind of really have to commit to them. But yeah, I'd be looking at like a Mamazelis, Murray, Graham, if he's fit. If not, and Munro's on the left, yes, sweet. Munro even. Or Latrell, you know what I mean? Like there's 3. You know, actually, shit, if I commit to Latrell as well, there's 4. And I'm very happy with those 4. So
I disagree. I don't think it actually matters how many Rabbitohs guys you can get in the team if they can score, and you generally think that because they don't have a bye till round 12.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
So
it's a long run.
If it was like in the first 5 to 6 rounds, like I'd be sitting there going, "Oh, you got to be careful how many you get." But with the round 12 bye, I think just it doesn't matter. If you generally think they're going to be able to score, I think you can have as many as you want. 4 or 5 would be great, and you can easily justify that. I think you're right. Mamazelis, obviously Latrell Mitchell. We're looking at one of Tars and Munro. We've spoken about Kula Matangi and Murray. Like that's 6. So
Schuster all of a sudden gets a starting spot. That's the thing. I think you have to look at the value more than just how many quantity. Because if they're great value, it doesn't really matter if they play in the same team because there's money to be made, and that's kind of half the focus. So yeah, like players like Tass or Schuster or these kind of guys, if they actually do look like they're going to be profitable, and Mamazelis and even Dodd, you know what I mean? Like if they look like they're going to be good and making money, why not? Load up.
Valid points. We will wait and see and keep a watch on some of these South Sydney players. I feel like by round 1, there'll be a couple in most teams out there. Next up, the final one of this podcast series. It's a bit sad, but it's exciting as well because that means we get into some more juicy topics as we get closer to round 1. It's the New Zealand Warriors. Very keen to rip into this one. We've got the advantage of they're one of the teams that are actually named a very strong trial team for this week. So whether they're wanting to hit the ground running, this is planned, but they've got a lot of quality players that are named that looks like this could be a hint towards how they're going to shape up, which could come into this topic a lot because one of the big questions around the Warriors as I bring up the slides is something like the fullback puzzle that we are trying to work out, and we may have got some answers with this team list. But for the Warriors' first 5 games, the Raiders in Vegas is round 1. Round 2 is Manly at home. Round 3, Roosters at home. Round 4, Tigers away. And round 5, the bye. The round 5 bye is a little bit annoying, but apart from that, it's not the worst draw at all. I don't mind it from a to start the year if there's players you're interested in from a Warriors point of view. It's definitely, I've seen harder draws to start the year. We just spoke about one that was insane. So when you compare that one to this one, it's welcomed. It's quite refreshing. So I don't mind this start. So for the Hookers, a couple of 198Kers, not too concerned about those at the moment, but Freddie Lussick, 272K, and Wade Egan, 491K. Currently 10th spot, I believe, in our power rankings as well. I think there's a little bit of thought around him, Jesse, and talk to us. Any interest around in Wade Egan?
Yes, only because of how well he starts a season every year. Like every year. This guy goes nuts at the beginning, the first 5 rounds. Like it's actually kind of insane, to be fair. 2023, rounds 1 to 5. Average 69, started with a 99, 88, 71, 64, and then a trademark little injury 23. 2024, his first 5 games, or actually it was round 1, 4, 5, 6, 34, 69, 88, 78. So we're up pretty much to round 6, he averaged 67, which is very similar to what he did in 2023. And then you go back to 2022. 52, 80, 45, 39, low minutes. So he's just going off the last couple of years. Traditionally, in the first quarter of the season, third of the season, flies out of the gates, and then the injuries start, and then things start to slow down, and he gets random little things that really only Wade Egan can come up with. So yeah, kind of. Just if that can actually be like, if that's a going trend for him, which it seems to be, 491k, a 50 average, where he's looking like he's probably going to hit between 65 plus. Yeah, I don't mind it. Just sort of pipped in the bottom of the power rankings, but yeah, if they're just current live for the rounds 1 to 5, I think he's got great value.
Trav? Oh, hang
gone.
on. Trav's gone. He's that's all
back?
good. He'll come back,
Yeah.
but fair points. Fair. I think that's something that you have to definitely look into to start the year as well, where if you get some quick cash out of him, get him up to a quick 580, 590, 600k after a few weeks, maybe.
I think he does provide headache after a while. Yeah, maybe it could be something, but it's really dependent. If he just goes bang, 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 gets the price rise, trade him out for the buy.
Yeah.
If that's such a short grab for your hooker spot, I don't know if it's, it's part of your game plan, but yeah.
I don't even want to waste trades on hooker this year. I really don't.
No, not really. If he can
ugly
keep doing
position.
it's solid, but he doesn't continue. Like he doesn't keep doing it. He'll have an injury somewhere. He'll have a low game. He'll have a concussion. But yeah, it's pretty standard for him to just come out swinging. So
yeah. We will see. Maybe I need a little draft pickup, but again, that token injuries that we keep talking about, unfortunately, is a real pain in the backside. Let's go to front row forwards while we wait for Trav to sort out his internet issues, unfortunately. Bunty Afoa, 242k with a 2RF dual. Tom Ale, 245k. Aaron Clark, the new signing from the Titans, with a 2RF dual, 391k. Jackson Ford, 2RF dual, 548k. James Fisher-Harris, the huge signing from Penrith, 549k. And Mitchell Barnett, 2RF dual, 661k, 11% ownership. There is a question here around the Barnett, the dual side of things. It's not really a question, it's more of a statement. I feel like, just to put the exclamation points on the fact that I'm heating more and more up towards Barnett, if I'm being honest with you. Every time I look at him, I just think I want to be all over that. But at the same time, I can't balance my team to make it happen. It's pissing me off.
I think he's got a great deal of value as a front row forward with his dual. There's so many duals in the Warriors, isn't there? Even just in the front row. Fisher-Harris is the only one relevant that doesn't have a dual status. So, look, Barnett's scoring last year was very broken up depending on where he played. 79 playing between the middle and the edge, where he was kind of rotating between the two. Very high minute games, admittedly, but pretty much point a minute almost in a way. Even more so, probably 1.2. 59 as a prop and 65 as an edge if he didn't move around at all. So yeah, like if he's going to be between those two positions, there's no upside in his price, unless somehow miraculously he gets goal kicking because he can kick. That would be insane if Barnett started kicking for the Wires. I'd find a way for him in my side just because of how cool it would be to have. But yeah, it just depends, man. They've got obviously big outs. Fanua Blake's gone. Tohu Harris is gone. Like, someone has to step up. We're expecting Fisher-Harris to be their new guy that fills the void. I think it's Barnett. Genuinely, I think Barnett is going to be the one, because he showed it last year, and he's been good for so long. Where now they can really just be like, okay, it's yours. You know what I mean? You and Fish are going to be the guys that are going to run this team and be the brunt of all of it. I think he can go up. I think he can go up in price and up in average from what he did last year, but he just needs the capacity to do it. He's not going to get that as a 55-minute prop. I think he needs to have that role where he peaked last year, where he got that Origin selection. He needs that role for the season. And they have the vacancies for it.
Yeah, he's kind of giving me Yo vibes. I don't know if that's too big to say, but
I don't know.
Just with how much he's got to do, like as you just rightly said, no AFB, no Tohu. I just feel like he's going to do that much that just naturally he's going to be like consistently in that 70-point range. It's just going to be ridiculous.
I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think so. Yeah, and then there you go. 661 is already good value. But again, it's very hard to start with someone like him in your front row. Second row,
Yeah.
you could probably afford to because there's cheaper options in your front, and then you can just rotate him once the team structure settles itself, and you can adjust him because he's a jewel. He's 11% owned, so he's definitely up there. Like he wouldn't have been near 11% last season. So I don't mind it, man. I really don't mind that pick at all for anyone going Barnett to start. I don't mind
That
it.
was me a while ago, but
Yeah.
I just went off him. So
And there's a couple other ones too, like Fisher Harris, 549K. It's a bit dear, I think.
yeah,
550 for him. I don't know how much more he does. I think he's going to be more important for the Warriors than
super
he was
coach.
obviously so important for the Panthers for how
Yeah.
much they won, but um, I just don't see how much more he could possibly do for the Warriors. If not, maybe a bit more minutes. Um, but yeah, look, a 56 average, it's higher than what he's been getting traditionally anyway. So I think he's priced accordingly. I just think there's better value at front row for someone else
Yeah.
besides Fish. Um, Jackson Ford, a lot of potential if he does get a starting edge spot, because he's a jewel as well. 550, I think he gets that on a normal day at the very least. So him pretty good value, only 1% owned. Aaron Clark's up there though. There's a lot of discussion around him. 2RF front row forward jewel, 391K. I think a lot of the expectations he's going to be the starting lock. If that's kind of the hope at the end of the day, really, with him. In games where he was the starting lock, he's averaged 53.6. There is 8 of them, and with a 52-minute average. So it's pretty good. It's over a point a minute, just. If that's going to be what it is, he's already at 391. If he was low 300s, I'd probably have him in my side. He's not at the moment.
Yeah.
I just think, I like Horsburgh. There's a couple other guys too that like Nafahu White, these sort of dudes. I don't have too many of the 300-ish K, 3 to 400K jewels, but there's a few. Hess is another one that could be in the same bracket. So he's at the top. No, Finafuaki as well, but he's not a jewel. So just in the jewel status of things too, because you can move them all around if you needed to. Pretty good if he does get that starting spot. I know there's a lot of talk about Dylan Walker doing it, but I think he's probably better off the bench as a utility. It's a lot of watch with the Warriors. There's a lot changing, and I think there's a good deal of options for him. But he's on the radar definitely. The whole forward pack, to be fair, like we've just gone through 5 of them, and I could see anyone starting with all of them at all. So there's a good deal of watches here for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Trav is back with us now. Just heard his voice. So anything to add on the front row forwards, Trav, from your angle? We've just touched on all of them. You might have something that you want to quickly mention.
Yeah, my bad. I'm having some technical issues. Telstra internet, I have lagged a fair bit, so sorry, I missed a whole chunk of that. So I'm not sure where you went. And I threw in
everywhere
the Finafuaki because I actually thought you were at the 2RFs because I heard all these 2RFs being named. So, but there were jewels, and then you corrected me with that. So yeah, I won't go any further because I'm not sure what you spoke about. So maybe just keep going.
You'll lead me into the 2RF. So I'll go to there's a number here. So first of all, Zion Ma'u has signed with the Dogs, so he's not part of the Warriors anymore. Jacob Laban, 232K, has been named to start this weekend, so he's got a huge. Watching that very, very closely.
You missed a big one.
You missed a bigger one, yeah.
You missed a massive one.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, yes,
Dimitri
Vamaga.
Different surname last year. I think he's taken his mother's surname. I'll have to find what his other surname. You'll recognize it if you saw it from last season. Sorry, continue with the team list. I'll find the info.
Thank you. And we'll go back to Mr. Vayamanga. Bunny, we've already spoken about Bunny Afoa and Aaron Clark, both with the jewels. Murata Niakora, 406K. Dylan Walker, 484K. Kurt Capewell, 490K. Jackson Ford, already spoken about him with the jewel. Tohu Harris, he's retired, so he won't be in the game anymore. And we've spoken about Mitch Barnett as the jewel as well. Talk to us, boys. Dimitri, what's the diamond in the rough I've missed? I've completely missed something.
Sifakula is the surname. that you probably would have recognised from seasons past. But big boy, big unit, expected to be doing big things, and 232k. He's in my side. It's a lot of hope at the same time. Like I just want a cheap second rower that I could probably run to if I needed one. But 20% ownership as well. He's pretty high up there. There's a lot of expectation around him. I don't know if it's going to be a major role. Could just be enough. Not enough, but like enough of a role to get you what his price has, and maybe a bit of an increase in value. But yeah, it's one that I'm pretty keen on, to be honest with you. I'll just be waiting and watching and seeing how that one plays out. So there's a lot of people that are definitely. And Laban too. Jacob Laban's named in the trials. So yeah, there's another one that's, same price. Played a few games last year as well. Didn't get a major role, pretty low minute stuff and very broken up. So yeah, just have to see how he goes in these trial games. If he can work himself into a position where he makes, 100, 150k, could be another option.
Yeah. Trav, when we start to move up this list, we've already touched on the jewels, obviously. So the rest of them, the high priced, don't really interest me. So I think it's more just the cheapies in this list.
Yeah. Did you talk about sorry, again, I'll refer back to the technical issues that I had to pull out. But did you talk about the replacement for Harris?
Yes.
Yeah. So you spoke about Walker and.
Well, we spoke about Clark, because Clark's been named this week in a very strong side. So it looks early doors, he's potentially got the jump, but you never know. Walker, I think Walker for them, his value for mine is off the bench. He's remarkable. He can go in and fit so many gaps. I wouldn't want to change that if I was them. I'd let Aaron Clark start, deal with the crap, and then get Walker in at some point, whether it's wherever the forward pack's shaping.
Yeah, I think I'll let you go. Sorry, Trav, you were going to talk about him. I just got Walker's stats up here. So
no, go.
Well, when comparing his stats with Aaron Clark at lock specifically, because that's obviously the role that they're fighting for, Aaron Clark was about 53 points in 52 minutes as an average of his 8 games at lock that he started and played. Interchange is a whole different thing. Obviously, Dylan Walker has way more interchange stats to look at that he's probably come into that lock role that I can't see specifically. So his 14 games as a starting lock, a lot of them were last year in 2024 anyway. 61 minutes, 49 average. The points per minute's not quite there, and 61 minutes is a lot. He's not going to get more than 60 minutes, I would imagine. And yeah, it's a 49. He's kind of got to work pretty hard for it to be priced this season at he's 485k. He's basically priced at what he's going to get, and I don't see any upside for him. But I do for Aaron Clark at 390. If you're looking at the same statistics, his point a minute, if it's going to be 55 on, we expect to make about 100 or so K off him. But yeah, there's a lot more games off the bench. And I think, Joel said it. I said it earlier too. I think he's more valuable as a utility option for them anywhere if they need it.
Good. Yeah, I just didn't know whether you talked about it, so I just wanted to make sure you pulled it up. I agree with you, and I think it is Aaron Clark's spot, and I also agree with Dylan Walker, but I can also see a world where Dylan Walker does play that spot to start with, just for the experience, just for the leadership, because there is a lot of changes that's about to happen at the Warriors. So I think maybe he might play that really sort of hard edge, hard nut role that they really love off him. So there is a world that I can see him doing that, which is why I'm probably going to steer clear of Aaron Clark as well, just until I see. But I'm sure you guys spoke about that before. But otherwise, in terms of 2RF, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not interested in Catewell. So yeah, it's just those cheapies which we spoke about. And again, for that, I can see a world where Laban after this week is 20% and Va'amaga goes down to 5-6%, like depending on what happens. We just don't know what's going to happen at this point in time. So, but they're two dudes to put your Supercoach Plus. I told you I'd get that in every Supercoach pod. Watch list star and put it on those two and just watch to see what happens, because they're a good option.
You got Niokore to worry about as well. It could be off the bench, but we didn't get your thoughts too. I want to know what you think about Barnett, just as a value with his duel, with the expectations of obviously with the Warriors and Fanua Blake not being there, with Tohu gone. We're talking about Clark and Walker being the two guys to replace, but where does Barnett step up into things?
I don't actually. I can't foresee Barnett getting much more improvement in terms of his score. to be honest, unless he's kicking. So if he's kicking, that's where he'll get it. But I think what Barnett got last year at 67.5, I think is pretty much just going to be about what he's going to get, which is not bloody bad. But if Barnett's kicking, which from my sort of research, I don't think he's going to do, but he's a pretty good kicker. So he's pretty hard done by. But yeah, unless he's kicking, I reckon what you've got from Barnett around where he's at is what you're going to get, which means to me, I don't like that 661K price tag on Barnett.
I tell you what, there's still a small part of me hoping he just becomes the lock. I want it. I really want it. I really want this Mitch Barnett named at 13 come round one, and I would be all over that. Halfback, boys, and we've got a little bit of a dilemma or a headache on our hands by the looks of things. So, first of all, halfback, we've got Jet Cleary, 198K. Who knows, could become a player during the year. They'll just have the Cleary magic. Tana Boyd, 5'8" dual, 329K. And Tamari Martin, 5'8" dual, 663K. The guy that's actually been named this weekend in that jersey is Luke Metcalf, who we will talk about a little bit next. But anyone, I feel like because of this question, I feel like I should go the 5'8s as well, and then we talk about it because they sort of all go in together. So the 5'8s as well. So the ones that I haven't mentioned, Chanel Harris-Tavita, 330K. Luke Metcalf, 443K as well. Then there's a couple others, but they're the jewels I've already spoken about. So, as I mentioned, this week's team, if someone out there hasn't seen it, Luke Metcalf's actually been given the 7, and Tamari Martin has been given the 6. And I'm currently a Metcalf owner, and I am licking my lips even more after seeing that. The fact he's 7 and getting his hands on the ball even more, I absolutely love, to the point where I can't speak highly enough of having Metcalf.
Yep, he's a very popular option, isn't he? I think his price is good. His upside is really good for what he could do. The dual potential status as well, with him being named in the 7, is another thing to consider because he will probably get it come round 1, which is nice. I think Metcalf's a great pickup, but again, it's very uncertain with the halves in general, especially like Tamari Martin. You expect him to be the 7, or we expected him to be the 7. Now, obviously, that looks like it's Metcalf. Is he the 6? There's two pretty, ball running 5'8" kind of esque players that are going to be playing halves. Looking at their kicking meter average, Metcalf's is 40 meters career average. And then you look at Tamari Martin, and his is 50 career average. So they don't like kicking the ball very far, either of them. Tanner Boyd does.
Horseman's back.
Yeah, and Tanner Boyd also can kick conversions too. So it's like, all of a sudden Metcalf's value drops quite significantly when Tanner Boyd's in the side. So that's why it's like the whole, the talking point there. 2 halves make a whole headache because you just don't know. Like, we have a great potential cash option, cheap mid 5'8" with Metcalf. I think Tamari Martin's a bit too dear to look into right now, but providing Tanner Boyd starts, he's the best looking one out of all of them at 329, and you would expect him to kick. So there's so much uncertainty about it, but I think just with that, Metcalf's obviously a very good looker overall, but he's not even listed as a halfback yet. So
I can't see Tanner Boyd starting, to be honest with you. He's not even in this trial week 1 team. He's not even on the reserves.
Yeah, but do you look into the trial team and think this is going to be the one that starts, or do you look at these guys and go, these are the players that aren't starting? Because you just...
No, well, for the Warriors one, with the way they've got like Fisher Harris playing, they've gone, they want to hit the ground running, I feel like. So I think we're getting a bit of a preview about what they could very well look like come round 1. I just think they've got Tanner Boyd as a reserve. They'll get some value out of him if there is some injuries. I don't know. I don't rate him. I don't think he's a starting half for them.
Give me Jet Cleary.
They'll
double pair the Clearys up.
Now you're talking.
The twin Clearys.
He'd be a goal kicking whiz as well, no doubt. So, Trav, talk to us. What are you thinking here?
I have had Metcalf in my team. I don't have him at the moment. I'm just, And because of this headache at what's happening at the Warriors has actually had a really big role and effect of how my whole Supercoach team is looking. And so therefore I actually just went, no, I'm lock and load Dearden, and I'm very, very happy and comfortable to have Dearden in that. I put in a little post about this to the Legends today about my thoughts around what I'm going to do and what I want to do with the 5/8s. And I'm happy to just, without going too much into it, I'm happy to see what Metcalf does. I did, and what he does over the first 4 to 5 weeks. And maybe I get him in round 6 and he rises a little bit. And that's okay. And I'll take that hit and off I go. But at this point in time, I'm just going to just sit and watch because I actually really rate TMM. I think what he did last year, I mean, there's a reason why he's averaged 67.8 for the year was because he can play, right? And it was just the fact that they had Sean Johnson and a few things that just didn't go his way, but he still played 16 matches last year for an average of 67.8. That's incredible, which is why he's priced at 663. I'm not interested in that price, as Jesse said as well, but I think because of him, as well as the arrival of Boyd and what he potentially has, it's just too much of a headache for me. And I'm just happy just to sit back and watch and see what happens. And if I have to make a corrective trade, I
Yeah. So we're basically watching. After all this, we are going to confirm we will watch.
Yeah, I think there's definitely still a lot of people that will start. 33% obviously on Metcalf, and there's a chance
I
that
will be
depending on how my 5/8 looks. Like Trav said, hey, it's probably one of the worst positions to pick someone from, but I have to change my entire side in a way, or at least 4 or 5 players, if I want to keep a steady base and get good 5/8s. Or I just run with Metcalf and then spread the love around a bit more and then take the risk. But look, it's a team list dependent thing, that one for sure. But yeah, he's a very popular pick. If I do go down that route, it'll probably be Metcalf or Dewey as the cheaper if I go that way. So yeah, super popular.
CTWs. So Edward Cossey, 324K. Adam Pompey, 376K. Rocco Berry, 438K. Ali Liatawa, 513K. DWZ, 537K. And RTS, 553K. And currently 8% owned for RTS. Now,
Hot tip, boys and girls. Jesse has Dallin Watine-Zelezniak first picked in his centers.
You've got the wrong Warriors winger in my side.
He's been bitten. So their trial team this weekend. So on their wings, they've actually got Dallin Watine-Zelezniak, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, both on the wings, and then Ali Liatawa and Adam Pompey in their centers. So could be a hint to round 1. Again, they've named a very strong side, which is nice to see. I can't wait to sit there and watch these boys go at it. But talk to us, Trav. What are you thinking apart from the fact that you're giving away Jesse's team to everyone?
That he's definitely getting DWZ for sure. He held him for so long last year because he loved him. So
couldn't get rid of him.
Same as Hines.
Do not get DWZ. Do not go there. There'll be a point where DWZ scores 10 tries in 3 weeks and everyone will get sucked into him and then he'll get nothing for the next 7 weeks and you'll be like, oh, man, and you'll be sitting there with him stuck in your team for the next 20 weeks because just like Jesse was. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Don't get sucked into DWZ. Those days are over in terms of what he could do and I hope he corrects it and fixes it. But, please don't. No other real center wing really interests me at this moment except RTS. He's a freak. And I'm so happy. And is the NRL not such a better place now that the RTS is back? Like even just for 12 months, the NRL is just a better place. It's just the vibe is so much better. It's amazing what one dude can do to make the game so much better. His like Jesse will have all the stats for you because I lost all my internet. I've lost all my bloody pages. So I haven't had a quick chance to get anything. But it'd be I did have a few things about what he was like on the wing. So Jesse, if you want to maybe pull that up. The other thing too that I like about RTS and what he can do is not only has he got decent and very good stats on the wing, there's also a possibility that he plays fullback. And let's be serious, Chance Nickel-Klokstad is a better centre than he is a fullback, in my opinion. And then you've got Tuapiki, and I think Tuapiki's a weapon. But I've just got this feeling that they don't want to play him just yet as just their straight up fullback, right? So there's an opportunity for the RTS ends up going there, and if he plays fullback as well this year, I'm just really keen on RTS. So he's 7% owned. He's got the big thumbs up. Supercoach have obviously picked up as someone to get around. But yeah, if you want to pull up some of those stats to give some of my rubbish that I'm talking about some substantiation, Jesse, that'd be handy.
Yeah, mate, I've had him up since you started talking about him. So 2 games on the wing. I'm actually pretty sure it was 3 games, and one of those is a fullback game. But from the stats that I'm reading off, 2 games on the wing, 65.5 average. He scored a try in basically every game he played on the wing, and I'm pretty certain it's 3, and I'm pretty sure his average is about 72. In saying that, the 3 games listed as fullback, he averaged 74. So, yeah, look, man, really good stuff. The center... Like, I started with him last year. I don't know if you did, Trav. I know me and Joel definitely did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so we all started with him last year. And he was pretty well consistently banging out a 50.
Yep.
It was just 50 every week, 50, 50, 50, 50. And a lot of people got over it. I was like, he's giving you 50 every week. Like, it's a nice base. And that's without tries, because he only scored 1 try in the centers last year. He played 11 games there. So with a base power of 45. So yeah, look, man, he's priced now at the moment of 550. It's probably a little bit above what his base will be, but that was at center pretty prominently. So he's going to be that winger. He's going to be getting way more runs. He's going to be getting those, over 8 meter things. He's going to be getting more tackle busts, more opportunities to score tries, which he scored a try in every game he played on the wing last year, for a 65 average and higher. I'm super tempted again. Hey, I'm really tempted, especially with the Campbell Graham news. I'm trying to find that little bit of extra coin, and I'd be keen to run with RTS again. He's a gun. Like, it's okay, fair enough. He's another year older, but he ages backwards. Like, he looks incredible. He doesn't seem to be slow, and his base is really, really solid. So I really like that play for him now, and I'm getting way more tempted. I don't know about you two.
I feel like as well, one thing that hasn't been mentioned with him, the departure of SJ, I feel like puts a bit more emphasis on RTS to be more involved and to do a bit more. And I just think that will equate to a lot more in terms of the attacking stuff that you're talking about base, and it's clearly there. It hasn't never left. But one thing that was probably missing last year was a bit more of that attack that we're used to from RTS. And even on the wing, it is getting to become a huge temptation. I love his game. And if that fullback happens and we're still getting him at CTW, I think a lot of people will jump on him. We always talk about whenever you can find a fullback that gets that CTW status, just jump straight onto him and just take advantage of it. And I think a lot of people will. So he's definitely one I'm hugely watching. And I feel like come round 1, if it's either a wing or hopefully a fullback would be for a Supercoach side of things, would be even better. I think I'll find a way to put him in.
It's certainly freed up some money for me. I have put him in, and I dropped Karaz, so I went Karaz down, and it helped me do a couple of extra things. So, and that's such a big deal for me because I'm such a big fan of Karaz, and I owned Karaz from round 1 last year and had him all year. But with the way that the teams are looking, I needed to find some extra money, and this is where it was. And when I found out that he was on the wing for Supercoach purposes, I actually think I have 2 opinions on RTS. I think for NRL purposes, I'd actually prefer him on that team at this time of his career as a center. But for Supercoach purposes, I love that he's a fullback and I love that he's a winger. So I have 2 very different. I'm trying to change my mind frame here for 2 different perspectives. But for Supercoach purposes on the wing, I'm stoked. So I'm very happy to have him there with the potential that fullback's coming. And I've been able to really use that 150K to play with some and shore up some extra spots. So, he's in my team now and probably will be unless something changes.
I love it.
And then
Also,
apart from that,
Leah Tower, he's so good, man. I picked him up in drafts late last year when he started to break out. And, dude, he was pumping out big scores. But unfortunately, I just don't like him at 513. I think he's got good value. He's based off a 58 average. He's really good. I want to see what side he's on. If it's going to be inside Tuivasa-Sheck, which I think it is, that could be really fun as well. I think there's a lot there for him. What did he score last year? 26 against the Raiders, first game that he played, basically. 65 against Penrith earlier in the year. 78 in the Tigers, 75 for the Finns, 60 against the Sharks. Solid, like real solid. Just come out of nothing sort of thing. So he looks really good. Like eye test stuff, he looks fantastic. Center wing, I think he was a dual last year as well. I think he had dual fullback, which he's lost. Because I remember playing him as a fullback when I lost Lehigh Hopewadi actually in my draft. So yeah, I've got eyes on him. I hope he dips in price at some point. I don't know if he will. Really good. But that's
nice shout.
Yeah.
Let's go to the fullbacks. So that's obviously a bit of a puzzle, which I feel like hasn't become any clearer with this first team list that we've got, because it's the one option I don't think anyone really predicted, but potentially probably the obvious one, the lack of change. So Tane Tuapiki, 459K, and Chance Nickel Clockstad, 662K. So currently, because they're both just fullbacks, I'm not interested at all. It's more so just to see what happens. I think we've already spoken about it at length. Our eyes are on Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. It feels like that's the big one. Tuapiki, I hope he gets it. And I love him as a footy player. I'm really excited to watch him play. That 459K mark in just fullback only is just a bit. It's a bit meh. I just don't like it. It either needs to be cheap or just I can't match him up against some of these big dogs that we sort of pick. Anyone here entertain you boys from a Supercoach point of view? Because we've talked RTS.
If the coach came out and said Tuapiki was their fullback, I would have Tuapiki in my fullback spot. To me, he's a weapon. At that price at 459 is just freaking unreal. I would love to have him. I can't do it, and I'm not going to do it until I see that he's actually going to play fullback after a couple of games. Like, I need to see it now. I can't just see a team list over trials, which is not going to happen this week, but I can't see a team list over trials and then maybe one or two get rounds for me to pick him until then. But if the coach and things were to come out and go, Keeney style, Keanu Keeney style, like, you're my fullback, we're locking you in, I'm getting him. I would get him. I would drop Ponga for him.
Holy.
Wow.
Yeah, I would. Just for that price, I would happily. Yep.
I think for his price, he would be a very good third fullback.
Yeah, well, I got three.
If you want to increase, if you're
going,
if Ponga's your third fullback.
Yeah.
Good God. What do you got? Turbo Latrell Ponga.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hell. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that'd be nuts. I think, value for sure, but obviously security very low.
You just don't know. That's right. So that's why it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm playing a hypothetical there, and that's as simple as that. But until that happens, I have zero interest in what happens with the fullbacks at New Zealand.
Yeah. That's pretty much it, unfortunately. Kind of cancel each other out.
I agree.
Yeah. Wow. What a way to end the previews.
There we go. That's the Warriors done and dusted. That's the fullbacks done and dusted. And really, RTS would be a dream. And he'll be straight into pretty much everyone's CTW if he is named fullback. We can probably all agree on that one. Now, shout out once again, TC Coolers. It's question time. We had a lot of NRL questions this week, actually. I don't think we've had too many Supercoach. So it's normally the opposite. So NRL starting to take over, boys. We've got to get the Supercoach Super coaches back into it. So let me just quickly read through and get the soup. So, Martin Quinn has a subscriber as well. Thank you very much for that. He has hit us up with about RTS on the wing. Time to consider him. We've just given you your answer.
Yep.
We've spoken at length, and I think both of the boys are very in on him. I'm very much getting into that end of the spectrum as well. So, the rest of the questions, they're all just NRL, actually. There's no Supercoach this week. So, very quiet. Thank you for that. It's actually, I appreciate that. It's been a huge day. So, get off this podcast and wrap things up. So, that's it. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I think next week I got a bit excited. Now I'm starting to realize what we actually are doing next week. We're doing the positions next week. So, we're going to rip and tear into, we're going to do a top 5, I think we've agreed on, to do some positions and have a chat about it, some of the best value picks and things like that. So we did similar last year. So those that listened last year will know how we sort of attack them. We're going to do similar with the three of us. We'll rip and tear. No doubt, probably another big one. But we love it. So it's so exciting. Yeah, there'll be more probably team lists to talk about as well. So great little time of the year. It's very, very exciting. Legends Group, go on, $2.99 a month, less than a cup of coffee. We keep saying it. Plenty of exclusive content from both the NRL and Supercoach side of you. Get these two boys to have a deep dive into your own teams. They'll let you know what they think and where to do some changes, things like that. 10% off merch and double entries into all of our giveaways on a weekly basis. We currently have a couple running, so make sure you check out the page and look at those giveaways and get your entries in. But thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Give us your players that we've maybe forgotten about or anyone you're high on. Let us know in the comments, please. We do read them. We do get to them. Myself or Trav do reply to all of them in the YouTube comments as well. We love to read them while we're going about our day. Trav, thank you. Jesse, thank you.
Always
We've done it. We've got through the teams. How good.
Loving it.
Time to say goodbye.
Thanks,
thank you, guys. And we will catch you next week. Bring on the footy, actually. Bring it on.